across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, it's me again. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Stand by for 3 thrilling hours of news, views, debate, fun and fury. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, November the 20th. Here's what's coming up. Another day, another sign of Britain's woeful weakness when it comes to foreigners who break into our borders illegally. Already, we bribe these people with £3,000 to persuade them to leave. Now, alleged hardline Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is planning to substantially raise that amount. So, Mr. Migrant, you're here unlawfully. Pretty please, here's 10 grand for you to graciously accept returning to your own country. Great. Why don't we just kick them out for free? Why are we so feeble? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, as wide-eyed Westminster twonks reel back in amazement at just how tough Ms Mahmood's crisis crackdown is, remember, none of it will count. Failed asylum seekers who fall foul of her strict-sounding new measures will simply appeal to the European Court of Human Rights, and hey presto, they can stay. To remind us just how bad this dire situation is, today we learn that 500 more foreign nationals are claiming universal credit every single day. Crackdown? What crackdown? 0344 499 1000. And for the £500 million we handed to Monsieur Macron to stop the boats, a new initiative from the gendarmes who wander around the northern French beaches watching migrants set off on the 21-mile voyage to Britain, aka the Promised Land. Now Lay's cops have hatched an idea to snag dinghy propellers by hurling nets into the shallow sea. Decent enough plan. Why didn't they think of it before? 0344 499 1000. Also this afternoon, the plot to oust useless Keir gains pace as the immensely self-satisfied Andy Burnham refuses to rule out a coup, and a Labour MP offers the Manchester Mayor the parliamentary seat he'll need before measuring up the curtains at number 10. More than 80 backbenchers support this significant challenge. Never mind, two-tier Keir's been busy writing an excruciating public letter to his 18-year-old son. The poor kid must be mortified. More evidence that Starmer is an A-grade weirdo. So, Keir, speaking as an outsider, what do you think of the human race? 0344 499 1000. Plus, yet more turmoil at the calamitous BBC as the boss of the state broadcaster's Children in Need charity quits in disgrace after just 11 days. Stay tuned to find out why. And after yesterday's egregious example of pathetic police wokery with the denouncement of British flags, here's another one. Coppers are being advised to call prostitutes sexual entrepreneurs. What next? Calling muggers wallet remover venture capitalists? Calling rapists advanced growth speculators? When is this nonsense going to stop? You're the Rozzers. Just catch the bad guys. 0344 499 1000. Plus, growing fears over asylum seeker crime after a small boat migrant follows a terrified woman onto a train and tries to kiss her. The Right On Cinema that cancelled a film about free speech. Olympic legend Sharon Davis on the latest trans madness. A scheme to only ban bad-looking trans women from female safe spaces. And finally, our brilliant royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, on Meghan's bizarre interview in Harper's Bazaar, hoping her kids can see the bravery in her jam making. What planet is the difficult Duchess on? Planet California, I fear. 03444991000, all that and so much more. So don't go anywhere, stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together and let's go straight over to my first guest. She is Talk's excellent international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Good afternoon, Isabel.
Good afternoon, Kev.
Before we get into everything I laid out in my monologue, I need to talk to you about the latest nonsense on the migrant crisis front. This is just broken, so I'd be interested to get your take on it. The COVID inquiry, that thing that's costing us about £175,000 every day while not inquiring into what we all need to find out about. Did the lockdowns work? They're not even considering that question because the answer is they didn't. But the COVID inquiry seems to think that it's a given that lockdowns are brilliant. They're not. But that's what the COVID inquiry has pre-decided, even though we're spending all that money to look into it. No question of examining whether or not lockdowns were worth it. They were a disaster. They were a catastrophe. We must never do it again. COVID inquiry, not looking into that. Anyway, Isabel, here's the deal. Chaos. COVID inquiry has just produced its initial report saying that chaos at the heart of Boris Johnson's government and a failure to take COVID-19 seriously cost 23,000 lives in the first wave of the pandemic. Now, I'd say two things about that. First of all, how do they quantify 23,000 lives? My feeling is this is a left-leaning inquiry that loves lockdowns and was always going to have a go at a Tory government. I don't think there's any doubt that Boris's government was pretty chaotic in its stewardship of the COVID pandemic, of the crisis, if you like. But I'm not entirely trusting of this inquiry. I think they were always going to say this. How do you think they came up with this 23,000 lives? Seems like a very round number, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I share your skepticism, Kev. I mean, I actually, having sort of been on the inside of this story, having worked on the Pandemic Diaries book, which is based on evidence from Matt Hancock and all those WhatsApp messages that I read, I'm not actually sure it's fair to say that in the beginning stages of the pandemic, there was any more chaos than might have been expected. You know, this was a first time anything like this had ever happened. And in fact, in fairness to the then health secretary, he had been taking this virus pretty seriously from the very beginning of the year. You know, you'll remember that we went into lockdown at the end of March, didn't we? And the government, of course, they didn't want to rush into any kind of lockdown. I mean, this whole inquiry seems to have started from the premise that more lockdowns would have been a good thing. Whereas I'm coming from precisely the opposite premise, that lockdowns are absolutely the last resort. And, you know, I feel the first lockdown was in some ways justifiable or even potentially necessary, whilst the experts, the medics, the scientists worked out what was this thing that we were dealing with. I find it very hard to believe that if the whole nation had kind of juddered to a halt at the beginning of March, somehow that would have prevented this thing ever kind of felling as many people as it tragically did. Because ultimately, it's a sort of false premise to try to keep a respiratory virus at bay just by keeping everyone inside indefinitely.
Absolutely, and I just got some more information. Unsurprisingly, the COVID inquiry has concluded that the government response to the pandemic in March 2020, as you just relayed, was too little too late. This whole inquiry has been based on trying to decide whether or not we should have locked down much earlier, or whether, and just how whether or not we should have locked down for much longer, more and more lockdowns. What we want to know, I'm just watching Baron Hallett, the chairwoman of the Baroness Hallett of the chairwoman of the inquiry, pontificating. I've got a message for you. Can you stop wasting our time and stop? I'm looking at her on the telly now. I'm shouting at her. I don't know why. It's a really pointless thing to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Stop wasting our time and stop wasting our money, you old windbag. Seriously, it's all based around, predicated on, did we lock down early enough and did we lock down long enough? And of course, the conclusion is too little, too late. And as I say, had we, look, listen to this, had we only have imposed a lockdown 1 week earlier than we did, we could have saved 23,000 lives in England. What a handy round number that is. This is really annoying. 175 grand a day for this claptrap, this politically charged claptrap.
I mean, I've been very opposed to the whole way that the COVID inquiry has been set up. It's frankly ludicrous that only now, almost 6 years after the event, are we getting the earliest conclusions of this ridiculously protracted and unbelievably over-expensive investigation. You know, most people have kind of just about got ready to move on from the pandemic at this point. I mean, I consider myself someone who was almost obsessive about the impact of lockdowns and the minutiae of the pandemic. But even I now am beginning to think, really, you know, are we really going to be going over this all right now? I would have loved to have heard these all these evidence sessions many, many years ago. The whole thing, when you look at the remit of the COVID inquiry, it's absolutely gargantuan. They've tried to cover almost every angle you could possibly conceive of, apart from the very one.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from the one question we want answered. Should we lock down at all? And in fact, I can answer that question, and so can you, Isabel. The answer is no. We must never do that again. Look at the mess. We are still in a massive mess, economically, socially, culturally, because of the lockdowns. We have never recovered. And this inquiry that will only consider whether or not we should have locked down earlier or longer, it's an insult to our intelligence.
It is. The other thing that I really think is still pertinent is the issue of whether every adult should have been put under such unbelievable pressure to have a vaccine that we subsequently discovered didn't actually help prevent transmission between patients. And I still don't.
Or prevent you catching it. It was the world. It was the world's. It remains the world's worst ever virus. Vaccine doesn't stop you catching the virus. Doesn't stop you passing it on. Doesn't stop anything. They just vaguely said, well, we reckon maybe, you know, you probably won't die if you have it. Well, I don't know how they quantify that. And the fact they're still doling this vaccine out to millions of people. Some people have had this vaccine, you know, like 20, 30, 40 times. That's ridiculous. Old people in particular, every 3 months, have another vaccine, have another vaccine. But it doesn't work. It's ridiculous.
I also think it was absolutely unethical. You know, we were put under so much pressure. It was like a kind of emotional blackmail. Do you remember all those horrific pictures of, you know, supposedly dying grannies? And, you know, very elderly, vulnerable people did die of or with COVID. No doubt about that. Just as very elderly people die of pneumonia and flu every year. COVID was very dangerous for very elderly and fragile people. COVID was not dangerous for young people. COVID should never have been allowed to ruin the lives of so many children, to ruin the student experiences of tens of thousands of undergraduates who are forced to pay their full tuition fees and be locked and corralled into their halls of residence, never to have a proper student experience. COVID should never have been imposed on in the way it was on our children, so that they were made to feel like they were little vectors of the disease and they were shut out of their schools. You know, more children died of being beaten up in their own homes during lockdowns than died of COVID, healthy children.
Is that right? I mean, that does sum up the awfulness of what went on. It was all wrong. It was all wrong. We must never, ever do it again. This inquiry will not only conclude that we must do it again in the event of a pandemic, but we must do it stronger and harder and be even more draconian with the people than we were the last time. And we, the people, must rail against that. We can't let these... Well, you know more about this than anyone because you saw all the WhatsApp messages between these panicking, clueless government ministers who were parading themselves as great protectors of the community when behind closed doors they had no idea what they were doing. We can't let this happen again. Well, let's yeah, we've got time now. Let's just drop that, and maybe everybody would like to give us a call and let us know what you think about this initial conclusions of the COVID inquiry, that the government basically did not respond early enough or strongly enough. In other words, they wanted to lock down a lot earlier than we did and a lot longer than we did, and they still won't give us an answer about whether or not lockdowns are a good idea at all. I can give you the answer. They're a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. I tell you what, Isabel, let's go to break now, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about Shabana Mahmood's latest hardline idea about what to do about illegal migrants. She wants to, at the moment, ridiculously, we give these people £3,000 to try and persuade them to leave and return to their home country. Hard line, tough as old boots, hard line, hard as nails. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood wants to raise that significantly, maybe to 10 grand or something. That's not very hard line, is it? We'll talk about that after the break. Stay where you are, folks.
December 3rd is when Meghan's Christmas special is coming up.
What's the Christmas special? What?
Yeah, I mean, what do you do when you have no family members that you still talk to? How do you execute a Christmas special? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, what's so interesting to me is that the Kardashians have since removed all the pictures that they had posted of Harry and Meghan from the event.
They just don't get any luck, do they? Even the Kardashians, and then, you know, let's be honest, they're not the higher echelons of society, financially they want nothing to do with them now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. We've just been covering this breaking news that the COVID inquiry, the £175,000 a day COVID inquiry that has been trundling on for years and probably will trundle on for many, many years to come without telling us whether or not we should have locked down. They think that was oh no, of course, locking down, that was always a good thing to do. Trouble is we didn't do it early enough or long enough. So next time we have a pandemic, we can really, really lock down for like ever and then ruin the country forever. Honestly, drives me nuts. 23,000 lives were lost in the first wave of the pandemic because the government was in chaos and did too little too late. How do they know? Where do they get 23,000 from? Nice round number, isn't it? It wasn't 22,999 or 23,001. It was 23,000. Make of that what you will. Isabel, let's talk about Shabana Mahmood. First of all, I just want to reiterate all of her hardline proposals, all these Westminster twonks reeling back. Oh, she's the new Nigel Farage. Oh, she should be in reform. These are so tough. None of her measures are going to work because every single asylum seeker that she says you can't bring your family over will go to the European Court of Human Rights and win their case. Every single migrant she tries to take the jewellery off when they arrive will go to the ECHR and win the case. And the idea that every 30 months we will review whether or not their countries are actually at war is for the birds. So none of this is going to work. None of this is going to work. Today we learned that hardline, tough as old boots, Shabana Mahmood is now proposing to persuade these asylum seekers, these illegal migrants, people who broke into our country illegally, currently, bizarrely, I think, in order to persuade them to go back to their own countries, we're giving them £3,000, bribing them with £3,000. Shabana's hardline plan is to up the ante. You know, she hasn't decided on a figure, but she wants to do it substantially, so we'll end up getting them 10 grand or something like that. Why don't we just kick them out? They're illegal. You know, do what Donald Trump does. Your presence here is unlawful. You're out. No money. Just kick them out. Why can't we do that?
Well, I think it's completely unacceptable. And just to put those figures in some sort of context, £3,000 is way more than the average annual earnings in Sudan or Eritrea. So that is a bit like giving a British person, I don't know, 40 grand, 35 grand.
Yeah.
After they've broken the law. Let's suppose you or I rocked up in Eritrea and you know we bust into the country and they very nicely put us in the best of their hotels that they could come up with and fed us and watered us and gave us medical attention. And then the Eritrean government said, hey, you know, never mind that you broke in and we've been treating you in a really nice way. Would you like 30, 35 grand, 40 grand to go home? Would that be okay with you? Yeah, I mean, I'd take the money. But also, like some of these enterprising migrants are already doing, I think I'd come back again. Yeah. Let's do a loop around and see how many times we can go.
Like a one in, one out system kind of thing. I mean, she's given an interview saying, I know that they're paying migrants to go back to their, illegal migrants to go back to their home countries sticks in people's craw. Damn right it does, Shabana. It sticks in my craw to the extent that I don't want you to give them a damn penny. Stop all this madness. And today we learn to prove just how bad this crisis is. It's get out of control now, Isabel. 500 more foreign nationals are signing on for universal credit every single day. 500 more.
That is just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is just beggars belief. How the hell did our political leaderships lose control to that extent? You know, this is completely unsustainable. And, you know, we've got this budget from hell coming up next week. And this is also around about the time that many of us are having to pay their tax bills, fill out your horrible self-assessment or pay your corporation tax.
Tell me about it.
You're due. Just done mine, Kev, a horrible amount of Great British taxes. The thought that, you know, that might be going to bribe illegal immigrants to go home really makes me feel quite sick. And I'm sure it will make many of our listeners feel sick if they think that that's what they are working to pay for. I think this is going to get, you know, the temperature in our country is already maybe freezing outside, but in the national mood, I think, is at boiling point already. And if people start being given ever higher sums to leave, I think that is just going to push some people over the edge. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. But there's going to be, I don't know whether people are going to go on strike or they're going to organise more peaceful protests or what it is. But I know that people want a way to express just that they're just not prepared to put up with this anymore.
Yeah, just to put some numbers on it, so as 500 more migrants, foreign nationals, sign up for universal credit every day, that has brought the number of foreign nationals that we're paying benefits to, big benefits to 1.3 million. That's up from about 885,000 last year. So it's soaring. It is soaring. You know, Stella Creasy, the left-wing Labour backbencher, called Shabana Mahmood's tough new migrant crisis measures performative cruelty. I call them performative headline hunting, because they're not going to amount to a hill of beans. What's she doing about this? Well, where is the proposal to stop the boats? Where is the proposal to find out anything about these people, these predominantly young men, thousands and thousands of them that we let in every month? Well, you know, these proposals, they sound all right, but as long as we stay in the ECHR, they cannot be imposed. They cannot be instigated. It is as simple as that. So all we've had from Shabana Mahmood over this week is a lot of talk and babble that won't amount to a hill of beans, I'm afraid. Meanwhile, look at the number. 1.3 million foreign nationals claiming universal credit, and that number is going up by 500 a day. So they come here, they break into our country, and we give them a load of money. This is madness.
You know, a lot of this money is also getting sent out of Britain. It's not even,
yes, it's back to their families.
It's not even as if it's sloshing around our own economy.
Oh,
you know,
God.
It's leaving the country. You know, if you go, my partner Richard Tice's constituency in Boston and Skegness, which is absolutely full of Eastern European immigrants who are, I'm hesitating to say they're illegal, because they're not illegal. Most of them have actually found ways to play the system. How do I know this? Because I've seen the offices that are set up in the constituency designed to actually show new arrivals how they can actually be here and remain here legally and extract as much as possible from the system. And what do you, the most popular businesses often seem to be the ones where you can do the money transfers. That's money being transferred from the UK out to other countries. You know, it's like as if our country has become a gigantic charity for the third world and for less well-off countries.
And I just, Shabana Mahmood, as I say, just to reiterate, she's not just considering raising this £3,000 bribery money to leave the country. You broke into our country illegally. Here's £3,000. Pretty please, can you go home? She's not just considering increasing that amount. She's considering a big increase to that amount. And every time I read this kind of thing and every time I hear her talk, I just keep thinking of that video that you brought to us that we played on my show in the evening of her 10 years ago standing on the Greek island of Lesbos, handing out food parcels to illegal migrants arriving from the Middle East and sub-Saharan Africa. Going, here's your food, here's your food. That's Shabana Mahmood. She ain't going to solve our migrant crisis in a month of Sundays, nor is Labour. Just before you go, talking of Labour, this plot to oust Keir Starmer is gathering pace. Andy Burnham refusing to rule out a coup, but before he can measure up the curtains in Downing Street, he's going to have to get a parliamentary seat, and Clive Lewis, who's got one of the Norwich seats, a Labour MP, is considering handing his seat to Burnham so that his path to power can be paved. 80 MPs now backing Burnham's move. I mean, either way, whether or not it's going to be Andy Burnham, it does really look as if Starmer's days are numbered.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, Andy Burnham emerged from party conference season supposedly weakened and damaged. But nonetheless, he is an attractive figure, I think, to many Labour activists, to some Labour MPs, as we can clearly see. He has seemed to have done a decent job in Manchester. I'm no expert on that, though the centre of Manchester, frankly, looks as if it leaves a lot to be desired. A lot of the times, an awful lot of homelessness there, which is one of his big campaigns. But, you know, he's an experienced politician and would certainly be a bit more interesting than Keir Starmer, but he's no less left-wing. So let's not imagine that this is going to deliver any kind of solutions to the worst problems that we face at this point.
Absolutely not, no. So I think Burnham might be a bit better than Starmer, but ask the people of Manchester. He's a great proponent of everything he's achieved in the north. People of Manchester, ask them what Andy Burnham has achieved for Manchester. Most of them will tell you it's the square root of sod all. But you know, that's a Labour tradition, isn't it, really? So he can come down to Downing Street and achieve the square root of sod all, just like the current incumbent. Isabel, fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go to break now. We will return to the COVID story throughout the show, just breaking news, as I say. But next up, more woeful wokery among our police people. Unbelievable. Officers have been advised, coppers have been advised to call prostitutes sexual entrepreneurs. Unbelievable. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yesterday we dealt with the chief of all police commissioners, a woman called Emily Spurrell, saying that the British flags, the Union Jack and the St George's Cross, you know, were signs of tools of division and hatred and should be discouraged. More police wokery, the kind of police wokery that I think is ruining policing in this country and infuriating the people of this country. Well, check this one out. The National Police Chiefs Council, the NPCC, is telling police officers when they're dealing with prostitutes to call prostitutes, refer to prostitutes, not as streetwalkers, ladies of the night, good time girls, you know, sex for sale girls, none of that. No. The National Police Chiefs Council wants to call, it tells coppers to call prostitutes sexual entrepreneurs. There's only one person to talk to about this, a man who dates back to when policing in this country was sensible and not consumed by wokery. That is former Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Hello, Peter, your thoughts?
Good afternoon. Well, I have some breaking news for you. OK, the police have also come up with some new phraseology today. As of today, drug dealers must be referred to as narcotics industrialists.
Exactly.
OK, people found in possession of a knife must be called bladed brokers, OK, to reflect the fact that they may be involved in some other kind of industry.
Yeah.
And people who commit fraud, and will, of course, whether that be online, you know, ripping people off, the elderly, the vulnerable, and all that kind of stuff, they must be called alternative agents, because they do business in a different way.
I came up with a couple in my monologue. They should call muggers wallet remover venture capitalists.
Very good.
Rapists, advance grope speculators, and so on and so forth. I mean, look, they're bad guys. You're coppers. Just go out and catch them. I don't want you to show respect to people who don't deserve respect. What is going on?
Well, I'll add a little bit of fairness to this discussion, which is unlike me.
Yeah, go on.
What's happened is an all-party parliamentary group in Parliament has said that sex work comes in many different shapes and forms, and that some people in the sex industry are actually being exploited rather than being willing participants. Okay. So the police need to be on notice that sometimes people have got their arms up their back, so to speak, which is, of course, as old as prostitution itself, because, of course, pimps have been very exploitative in the past. I think really what's irritating the parliamentarians, though, is that arrest figures for prostitution and for controlling prostitutes have absolutely tanked. Yeah. They've hit the floor. Yeah. They're not nicking anybody for it. And they're upset about that. And I think the reason is because the police will tell you we've got more pressing matters on our hands, to be perfectly honest with you.
But what the all-party parliamentary group are saying, that one of the problems here, the reason perhaps that prostitution is not being dealt with properly, is that this terminology, like sexual entrepreneurs or even sex workers, that used to be the old one, is normalising prostitution, not only generally, but in the minds of coppers, that they don't see sex workers or sexual entrepreneurs as criminals, which often they can be.
Yeah, and it goes on actually at some length to talk about the relationship that some police officers might have with what you and I might still call sex workers rather than sexual entrepreneurs. You know, it's the oldest industry. I'm sure certain police officers do avail them of ladies of the night, etc., whatever they need to be called. But I do think that at the heart of it, the irritation from the parliamentarians is that the police are not prioritising sex work, the sex industry, and consequently the arrest figures have fallen through the floor.
But this also crystallises what we've been talking about for days, particularly yesterday with that crime commissioner, the chief of all crime commissioners, talking about the scourge of tools of hate, our flags, and now sexual entrepreneurs. Wokery, the rising tide of wokery in our police forces is a scourge. It's a problem because it sort of turns coppers into kind of social workers who don't... I mean, I think, in a way, I don't mean to be too pugilistic about this, but coppers should be at war with criminals, shouldn't they?
Undoubtedly. And this is what has happened, though, and it dates back 20 years or more, really. Sir Ian Blair was the star when he was Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police. Oxford educated, don't you know? Turned the Met from a police force into a police service. But it was more than just the title that changed. They started getting themselves involved in more and more things that hadn't been police's business before that. And by that, with some justification, domestic violence, sexual crimes that happen behind closed doors, but they actually saw themselves moving from a crime-fighting force into a kind of social service. So with everything that has swung left-wing ever since 1997, really, the pendulum has gone so far to the left now that the public are crying out for the policing that they want. And what do they want in terms of policing? Coppers that are visible, police officers that they know, and then they can be contactable, and then guess what will happen? They'll be trusted. Yeah. And when they see those police officers in their homes, on their high streets, in their neighbourhoods, doing what they want them to do, then they'll start to respect them again.
Yeah, never mind community relations. Nick the bad guys. That's good community relations. While I've got you, Pete, can we have a quick chat about this? I want to talk about the growing and worrying rise in asylum seeker and migrant crime. This is on the back of yet another disturbing sexual incident. This involves a small boat migrant who his name was Horay Mohammed. He's from Iraq, 27 years old. He followed a 20-year-old woman into Crawley station. He smashed it. She walked into the station. He smashed his way through the barrier and followed her onto the train and then lunged at her and tried to kiss her. Yep. Now he's been nicked, and quite rightly so. And that may well not be the worst case we've heard of this, but generally speaking, there's been quite a rise in sex crimes among asylum seekers. The charges from Mail on Sunday did an investigation last year, and out of a total of 708 criminal offences committed by asylum seekers, these included serious offences such as 18 counts of rape, 35 sexual assaults, 27 attacks on emergency workers, and 43 drugs offences. You know, we had only last week, I think it was, there was a woman raped allegedly by an asylum seeker in Bournemouth. I know of a story, a terrible story of the small boat migrant who was Afghanistan in his 20s. He arrived here, was immediately billeted at a hotel in Falkirk in Scotland, walked straight out, found a 15-year-old vulnerable local girl, took her behind a pub and raped her viciously, and got 12 years for this. And when he was done, he screamed, "Well, nobody told me you didn't like rape in this country." That was basically his line. So more and more the worry about sexual crimes, and I guess crimes of violence in particular, committed by asylum seekers, is a problem.
And rest her soul, Rhiannon Sky White.
Oh, poor girl.
Bless her.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are an increasing number of these people who are coming into the UK illegally. They are illegal immigrants as defined by Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971. Don't listen to the leftist drivel whereby they call them irregular migrants. They are illegal immigrants. If you come to the UK without leave to remain, that act and section makes you an illegal immigrant. End of. Now, the increasing number of these people who are being convicted of all manner of crimes, but as you rightly point out, an increase in crimes of a sexual nature is a deeply worrying thing. This country's first responsibility is to keep its citizens safe. That is enshrined in law. You can find it on the government website. It's not me banging on. Yeah. And they are manifestly failing to do that. But one small point, if I may, Kev, you imagine being that poor woman on the train.
Yeah, I know.
You hear a man forcing his way through the barrier.
Yeah.
You get onto the train. This man gets on. He's completely unknown to you. And then he lunges at you. And you know not what is going to come next.
You're so right.
An utterly terrifying experience.
Because you tend to say, well, that's not the worst thing I've heard. But you're right. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Lest we forget Hanish Kabatu from Epping, you know, who sexually assaulted 2 women there. As you say, the terrible event up in Wolverhampton. More and more of these crimes are sexual, and often when they get to court, these guys, youngish guys from foreign cultures, where they have a different attitude to women. Their defences, I didn't realise, you know, that you weren't allowed to grope women. I didn't realise you took rape so seriously here. That's the problem. It's a cultural divide that seems to say to these guys who come here, oh, it's okay to, you know, have a go at the local women. It's a really worrying situation.
Deeply, deeply worrying. But may I also honour the memory of Govinda Johal, a young man standing in a queue in a bank to pay in the earnings from his chicken business. Yeah. And he gets stabbed to death.
By a guy who's had his asylum seeker application refused. Yeah, I mean, by the way, that situation, that just proves, because he, you know, we're not trying to say all migrants are bad, all asylum seekers are bad. The poor guy you're talking about, he was an asylum seeker, he was a migrant. He came here, set up a successful business, had a wife and 2 kids, was a real credit to the community. We need more of them. And less of the guy who murdered him for no reason at all.
And today, another breaking story, if I may, which reached me this morning. Yet another man wanted for crimes in Germany came through on a small boat, okay? Only after he disappeared into a community was his criminal background discovered, and it was also found out that he was wanted in Germany for a number of offences. The National Crime Agency had to mobilise, find him, get his right identity, because he'd given false particulars, of course. He's now arrested and awaiting deportation. We are importing danger knowingly into this country. It is scandalous, and it is an absolute appalling stain on this government.
Couldn't have put it better myself, unsurprisingly. Peter Bexley, thank you so much for coming in. Next up, we're going to talk about more problems at the BBC as a charity chief for the state broadcaster quits in disgrace after 11 days. Find out why after these messages.
Who would be a better alternative, given that Labour MPs and indeed Labour voters, Labour Party members, tend to go for the more left-wing candidate?
Yes, I think for those of us on the right of centre of the spectrum, we should be a bit careful what we wish for here. I believe Ed Miliband is the most popular cabinet minister amongst Labour Party members.
It would be good fun, though. Those 2 weeks before the country imploded would be fun.
We would be back to the banter era. You're absolutely right, Julia.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Children in Need, one of the BBC's most cherished operations. A big charity, a big show every week. Children in Need, Pudsey the Bear, you know, all that stuff. You know, I'm not knocking it. Good cause, of course. But anyway, it's got a new boss. At least it had a new boss. His name was Terry Duddy. And he's 69. He started his new role at the BBC. Big role, that is. The BBC takes children in need very, very seriously. Just a few weeks ago, he stepped down after 11 days in disgrace because of this. Turns out that he was waiting for a trial, his trial. There he goes. He's driving his black BMW straight into that poor lady's cycle. I'm surprised she survived. This is in the Thames Valley area. So there's the cyclist, there's Terry, boom. Very poor driving, not looking at all. Anyway, he was in court this week and he got an 8-month, this was on the 13th of November, so what is that, earlier this week, is it, or last week? He was handed an 8-month custodial sentence. A very serious offence, but this was suspended for 18 months. But he'll have to complete 200 hours of unpaid work and pay legal costs of £272. And he'll also get an 18-month driving ban. So all very serious driving offences. I mean, but 11 days into being the chairman, the boss of Children in Need, he has to quit in disgrace. You'd have thought they might have known, or he might have said. It's just another mess. The state broadcaster doesn't seem to be able to do anything right, does it? Let's talk to Campaign Director for Defund the BBC, Rebecca Ryan. Rebecca, I mean, what do you make of this? 11 days and he has to quit in disgrace. I mean, they should have sort of checked him out a bit more, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. And they claimed that they did a DBS check and that it was thorough and rigorous. But as we know, this was in the public domain, there was in the press. So it's just shocking, really, that this guy didn't even put his hands up to say, look, I've got this hanging over me. You know, if the BBC hadn't seen that footage, which is absolutely shocking, as you say, it's really fortunate that the woman survived, but she has life-changing injuries. How did he think he was going to get? Was he that arrogant that he thought he was going to get off with that?
Well, I think that must have been it, Rebecca. He must have been hoping that he was going to get away with it, that he'd be acquitted and therefore could carry on with his job. So I would suggest that that puts question marks over his character. He's got quite a sort of impressive background, but any guy who thinks, yeah, I might be able to get away with it, I won't tell the BBC, see how I get on, roll the dice. Anybody who thinks like that, I would suggest probably wasn't the right man to appoint to running a charity like Children in Need.
Well, definitely not for a charity like Children in Need, but I think that, unfortunately, given the behaviour of the BBC and scandal after scandal that we've seen over the last few years at least, that he probably would have fit in quite well there, because they've got this attitude where they think they can get away with absolutely anything if they just sort of circle the wagons and protect themselves. So yeah, perhaps they were kindred spirits in the interview process. But it is absolutely shocking that this guy thought that he could get away with this, and that the BBC didn't look into the media and do some background beyond DBS and sort of say, actually, hang on a minute, let's not appoint him just yet. Let's wait the few days that it was to find out if he's going to be charged, convicted or not.
Yeah, again, it begs the question, could this state broadcaster of ours, the bungling Broadcasting Corporation, can it get anything right? I mean, it just seems to sort of lurch and stagger from one massive mistake to the next. I mean, let's not talk about Donald Trump, or let's. I mean, do they really think they're going to get away with saying, oh, well, yeah, OK, we told a lie about him. All right, we made it look as if he called for violent revolution against the American government. That's not really defamation, is it? Oh, well, yes, the Director General and the head of news have resigned because of it. But what's the big deal? Come on. And then, oh, I don't think we should. Oh, well, look, we said sorry. So we don't have to give him any compensation, do we? Why do they think, the BBC, if it was the Sun newspaper or the Telegraph newspaper or the Daily Mail, and they had said that about the President of the United States of America, would they be expected to just say, well, we said sorry? You know, that isn't the way the libel laws work. They're supposed to be punitive to try to make sure an organisation, a media organisation, doesn't make the same mistake again. Their defence, well, it's not really defamation, and we said sorry. What more does he want? I'll tell you what more he wants, BBC. He wants $1 billion, maybe $5 billion. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's absolutely outrageous that the BBC thinks it can get away with it, and then maybe they're just hoping that enough of the British public will think, oh well, it's Donald Trump, he's a bit out there, kind of thing. That they think they can get away with just, well, we've said sorry and that's enough. But also it's just form for the BBC for them to think that they can get away with these things. But as we've seen, that footage, how they've edited it, is absolutely outrageous. They haven't sort of put any sort of B-roll footage in between to sort of give some space. They literally cut the two bits of speech together to make it look like that's exactly what he said. And they knew what they were doing. They're professionals. This has gone through checks and everyone's approved it. So for the BBC to think that, oh, well, a sorry is good enough, it is really... it's just really quite shocking.
Add to that, so we're talking about now the chairman of Children in Need quits in disgraced after 11 days. Donald Trump, and also don't forget Newsnight have been found to have doctored tape about him as well to make him look bad, so they could be in trouble. Donald Trump is going to sue them, make no mistake. They seem to think it's all going to go away. Well, it isn't. And then yesterday we covered the story of how that during the Remembrance Day services they've had to apologise for constantly calling the Princess of Wales Catherine. They called her Kate. Well, that's okay, I think, but they called her Kate Middleton throughout the services of remembrance. I mean, she hasn't been Kate Middleton for, what is it now, 10 years? They've had to apologise. As I say, increasingly, this is the bungling broadcast, the British Bungling Corporation. They don't seem to be able to get anything right. What they need, I would humbly suggest, as they search for a new Director General, is not someone who knows all about the BBC. It's someone who doesn't know anything about the BBC and will impose on the BBC the sort of normal standards you'd expect in a properly run corporation.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is they're searching around for sort of someone who's basically BBC through and through. Either they're within BBC currently or they're former BBC team members. But you're absolutely right. They should be looking for somebody who's completely fresh, with a fresh set of eyes, without this kind of loyalty, without this circle the wagons mentality, who can come in and really shake things up and get a grip on the absolute state of the broadcaster at the moment, where we're just seeing scandal after scandal. And so, the British public are just so sick to death of being bullied into this. If they want to watch any live broadcast TV whatsoever, they have to pay for this absolute nonsense that the BBC's, these things that it's putting out there.
Absolutely, Rebecca. Good to talk to you as always. Rebecca Ryan, their campaign director of Defund the BBC. When we come back, we're going to go back to that COVID story, the COVID inquiry story. So that next, straight after the news. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A bit of breaking news for you, for music fans. One of my favourite bands, Stone Roses. Gary Manny Mounfield, the bassist with the legendary Manchester band, the Stone Roses, has died at the age of 63. Manny was a founding member of the group, played on both Stone Roses albums. Two great albums, particularly the first one. Later reunited with them for their comeback tour of 2012. So a sad day for music. Great band, the Stone Roses, great band. R.I.P. Gary Manny Mounfield. Let's get straight on with the show, though. Let's talk again about this breaking news, the, if you might like, the preliminary findings of the COVID inquiry that continues apace, that trundles on at the cost of about £180,000, £175,000 a day. And it is concluded that had Boris Johnson's government moved earlier, it could have saved 23,000 lives. I don't know where they got that round figure from. But Baroness Hallett, the chair lady of the inquiry, accuses Johnson's government of moving too little too late. Had they have moved earlier, she said they might have avoided a lockdown. Still no word, though, from this inquiry, because it's not even looking into it, as to whether or not we should have had lockdowns at all. That's what they should be discussing, and I think the answer to that is unequivocal. No, we shouldn't. We should never do that again. We're still suffering from the effects of lockdowns. Let's talk to someone who's been very vocal on this issue. Pleasure to welcome him to the show, former Conservative Cabinet Minister Sir John Redwood. Welcome, Sir John.
Good afternoon.
Your thoughts about this? I think I'm somewhat sceptical about all this. There's Baroness Hallett, you know, this incredibly expensive, lumbering COVID inquiry that refuses to look into the question that we really want answered. Are lockdowns a good idea at all? All it seems to want to talk about is, did we lock down early enough? Did we lock down long enough? No question about examining whether or not lockdowns are a good idea at all. I think they're a terrible idea and we must never do it again. However, the initial report from Baroness Hallett is that chaos at the heart of Boris Johnson's government and moving too little too late caused 23,000 deaths. Pretty handy round number, that, isn't it?
Well, it is indeed, and I think it goes to the heart of the issue which you're rightly highlighting. You know, what was a COVID death? Yes, there are families still mourning. People were carried away by a very nasty, virulent version of the disease, and we're all very sad about that. But the UK seemed to attribute to COVID an awful lot of deaths going on at the time. For people in their 80s and 90s with multiple conditions and multiple problems, whereas a country like Germany took a much stricter view that it had to be very visibly just COVID that was causing the problem, and it was a severe form of COVID that killed people. And I think we also, rightly, as you say, need to ask, well, what would have happened if we hadn't had these lockdowns? And I noticed that she is very critical of the Labour Welsh government and very critical of the Northern Ireland government as well as the United Kingdom government. And of course, in other parts of the United Kingdom, they were going for longer and harder lockdowns, and she doesn't think that produced a better set of results. So you're absolutely right. And I want them to answer some of the questions I was raising at the time. And why was so many infections spread within hospitals? Why couldn't we have had some hospitals that were COVID-free? Why weren't the hospitals immediately equipped with much better air cleaning devices to prevent so much transmission within the air circulating in the hospitals? Why didn't we think about saying that we would give full protection and proper lockdown facilities so that people who were vulnerable and elderly could stay at home in safety, and let more of us who were less likely to get a severe form of the disease to go about our daily work and not crash the economy?
I think also, Sir John, you know, there should be some sympathy for Boris Johnson and his government in the early stages as this COVID crisis began. I mean, you know, this was a very, very difficult situation, and she's talking about if we'd have only locked down a week earlier, 23,000 lives could have been saved. In England, that is. I'd love to know where they got this figure from. The inquiry also says lockdowns could have been avoided altogether if steps such as social distancing and isolation had been introduced earlier. She calls February 2020 the lost month, and she blames a toxic and chaotic culture at the heart of Boris Johnson's government affecting decision making. Well, I think we can all look back with the benefit of hindsight and say mistakes were made, but even I, a very blameful, vituperative type of person, I do have sympathy for Boris and his government in those very difficult times as they were hit by a completely unprecedented situation. And I just feel, looking at Baron Hallett's early conclusions, that they seem a little bit politically charged to me. This is another, the Tories messed it up situation, isn't it?
Right, there's a danger of that, and attributing far more power to the politicians and not analysing properly what the NHS was doing and what all the main scientific advisors were doing. Because obviously the Prime Minister and the Chancellor were reluctant to lock the whole country down because they didn't know at the beginning how big this was going to be and whether lockdown would make that much difference to the number of people that ended up with a bad version of the disease. And they had to weigh up what it was going to do to the economy. And as you were hinting in your introduction, the long-term effects are still with us. And I think it was completely wrong to shut down all the schools. And we've now got a generation of school children whose education was badly interrupted at crucial times in their development. And we've got all sorts of problems with the colossal debts we built up because we stopped so many people earning a living and suggested that we could just borrow a whole load of money to keep them going as if nothing had happened. And so I don't blame the Prime Minister and the Chancellor for saying to these officials, surely there's got to be some balance here. Indeed, I was on the side at the time of saying you've got the balance wrong, that there are many more people who could go about their work and keep the economy going to avoid the obvious longer-term problems that living off debt and borrowings was going to create.
And I don't know quite how deeply this inquiry, this lumbering, massive 180 grand a day inquiry is going to go into the issue of the vaccine itself, because it needs to be talked about. Which you will remember, how can we forget? Suddenly Boris leaping around saying this is a world-beating game changer, so we're told, great, we get the vaccine and then we won't get COVID. We'll be protected from... Oh, wait a minute. It won't stop you getting COVID. At least now, though, we won't pass it on to Granny. We won't be able to transmit it to anyone. Oh, wait a minute. It won't stop you passing it on to Granny. It won't stop you transmitting it. And then all of it, they just sort of basically say, oh, yeah, but we think it'll probably stop you dying. Well, I'd like to know how they quantify this. And people are still being, particularly old people, are still being sort of advised quite strenuously to, have this vaccine 3 times a year. People have had 20, 30 vaccines, COVID vaccines, since the inquiry, since the actual crisis itself. And, frankly, it's just not a very good vaccine, is it? We need to talk about this, don't we?
Well, I'd like to see more data on it. I agree, because I think there's a lot of scepticism out there. And indeed, the medical profession has gone off some of the vaccines that were used very prominently at the time, and it'd be nice to have a proper explanation of all that. But we know that the vaccines didn't stop the disease. We were told that it meant it was a milder form and therefore fewer people died. Well, let's have a look at the data on all that. But it seems that in the end, the thing just burnt itself out when all the vulnerable people had got it, and others of us may have had it and got over it and developed our own immunity.
Sir John Redwood, thank you so much for stepping into the breach, because this was a breaking story. And so Sir John Redwood there, who was obviously a top Tory at the time, still is, but he's quit as an MP, former Conservative cabinet minister, one of the sceptics about everything that went on during that time. I was a sceptic. Were you a sceptic? I mean, I just thought if we were living through a time of madness, and we're still paying the price. Let's speak to David in Kent. Hello, David.
Hi there. Hi again. On the COVID inquiry, can I put it straight? I'm going to put it straight to people out there. If you believe the narrative about lockdowns working, you thought the crapsings were safe, you isolated your own elders so that they died of loneliness, you got yourself tested, you wore a face snapper, you did the social distancing and all the other nonsense. Please, please, don't moan about the economy today and being hard up, because you are the reason why.
Look, David, I'm sort of probably of your frame of mind about it, but I think you have to cut people some slack. This was a time of great panic with these nightly announcements, basically by, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Valance and Whitty, and Matt Hancock standing there saying, you're all going to die unless you do exactly what. So to be fair to people, they wore face masks, they social distancing, went along with the lockdowns, because an atmosphere of panic, psychological panic, was whipped up by the government. So I wouldn't be too blameful about the people, but we were plunged into a situation, we were plunged into measures that I think were ridiculous, mad, and we're still paying the price. Lockdowns did not work, and I don't know why they kept doing them. If you think about lockdowns, David, think about it. So they give us, oh, wow, look, it's terrible, we're going to have to lock down. We locked down for whatever it was, 6 weeks, 2 months. They go, oh, look, it's stopped. Look, we've virtually got rid of COVID. We come out of lockdown, 1 week later, everybody's dying of COVID again. Therefore, it proves that the lockdown didn't work, and yet we kept doing it again and again. Do you see what I mean?
It does, it's true. I mean, they tried to isolate themselves in Australia and New Zealand. It didn't blooming work for them. They didn't do it in Sweden and Finland, and had no difference in terms of the small level of excess death rate. Just evidence well internationally that this is an insane policy. It's as clear as day. And I'm about to say something else as well. Talk about inquiry of the absurd. When can we have an inquiry into why they are not releasing the data on excess deaths by COVID injection status?
Well, I was just talking to Sir John Redwood about that. I mean, I want as Sir John said, I want lots more data on this vaccine that they're still doling out left, right and centre. I mean, does it even work? I mean, I'm not sure it does. But listen, David, I take your point. I just think we should, remember that people are in a panic. They were being told by government ministers and chief medical officers that if you don't do exactly what we say, you're all going to die. So I wouldn't be too blameful about people who went along with lockdowns and wore masks and all that. But I get where you're coming from. I'm with you in spirit. Thanks for a great call. David in Kent there. Let's talking to great calls. It's Tarquin in London. Hi, Tarquin.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much to the greatest drive time host. I hope it's a long reign, or is it just for 2 days?
Well, at the moment, it's just for 2 days. Yes, I'll be here all the way until tomorrow. So you'll have to put up with it tomorrow.
We'll look forward to seeing you back on the political asylum in due course. Even though you're stand-in, she's been.
We're all over the place at the moment. Lots of changes happening, but I think I'm back on it next week.
Right.
Back where I belong in the dark of the night. Seriously, let's talk about this COVID inquiry. Tarquin, what do you think?
I've got a couple of mixed emotions on this, Kevin. I wonder if you could put me straight, actually, because I get the feeling that we were guinea pigs in a massive cultural behavioural experiment, particularly when we found out that 10 Downing Street had a nudge group, a behavioural science-based group.
The nudge guy, I forgot about that. Was a disgrace, yeah.
So I think it was all interwoven with that, is that they were seeing, what they could get away with for future, research purposes, as they say, for research purposes. But at the same time, I am of the same mind as you, that the way it was an egregious abuse of the British sort of common sense and fair play and, well-behavedness, and we were totally abused. And I just think that, like you said, the ramifications post-2001, 2, 3, and now the kids that don't want to go back to, get off.
Yeah, I mean, the effects of those lockdowns, I mean, economically, we're still suffering terribly because of it. Culturally, it knocked us for 6. Socially, it knocked us for 6. It completely recalibrated, I think, the British propensity for hard work. We were a hard-working nation. People were paid for 2.5 years not to go to work. And millions of them thought, hey, this is handy. I quite like all this, not going to work. And now we have a workless problem. So the ramifications of what we did to ourselves, if you like, during the COVID crisis are immense, and they continue apace. We have not recovered from the COVID crisis, and the reason it became more of a crisis than it needed to be, I think, was because our politicians, our medical officials overreacted and over-panicked, and they instilled that panic onto us,
and
the
now,
people.
Finally, Kevin, my final word, and now they're insulting us, what, £175,000 a day on the taxpayers' dime? Disgusting!
I know. And again, I keep saying this, but it enrages me, infuriates me that this COVID inquiry, 180 grand a day, has never agreed to look into whether or not we should lock down, should have lockdown, should ever lock down again. The only thing that they wanted to talk about lockdowns was, as is proved by Baroness Hallett's statement today, was did we lock down early enough? And did we lock down for long enough? No. The question is should we have locked down at all? And you won't have to pay £175,000 a day for the next 5 years for the answer to that. I can give it to you right now, Tarquin, for free. No, we should not have locked down. It was madness. Tarquin, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much for another excellent call. Tarquin in London there. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Keir Starmer. He's recorded a sort of open letter to his 18-year-old son, for whom I think millions of us are feeling very sorry right now. Keir Starmer, I mean, what goes on in his head? We'll have a look at his strange message to his kid, and then we'll talk about that. Is that good parenting, to go public like that? I mean, unbelievable. We'll talk about that after the break. Stay tuned.
So don't miss out.
This is opposing for the sake of opposing, something Labour did when they were in opposition in the last government, rather than just saying, you know what, this isn't perfect, but you know what, it's a downside better than where we are now. Am I fair in my criticism, or is there a good reason why Reform should oppose these measures?
It's a difficult one because, as you quite rightly say, it's a step in the right direction. But I think Reform have bloody good reason to be highly sceptical of this. They have been shouting from the sidelines for not years, but decades.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Got loads of messages about the COVID inquiry. Leslie points out, quite rightly, don't forget, she says, Starmer wanted, when he was leader of the opposition, he wanted longer, harder lockdowns. He, along with the teaching unions, demanded school closures. Absolutely right. Good point. And also, there's a good one from Adrian in South Wales, talking about that guy, the BBC chairman of Children in Need, who had to quit after 11 days in disgrace because he had this court case hanging over him, terrible driving offences for which he was found guilty. Adrian points out, every job application that I have completed has asked whether I have any pending criminal convictions or court cases. So I wonder whether that guy, you know, sort of didn't really own up to that, and hence he had to go after 11 days. Was he hoping, as I say, roll the dice, maybe I'll get acquitted and then all will be well. But there you are. Right, let's get back to business. Let's talk about Keir Starmer, the man who wanted longer and harder lockdowns. He's sort of written or recorded, if you like, an open public letter to his son as he reaches the magical age of 18. Well, let's get on my next guest and then we'll talk about whether or not this is good parenting. So welcome to the show to TV psychologist Emma Kenny. Hi, Emma.
Hiya, how you doing?
I'm good. Well, let's have a listen to the Prime Minister's message to his son. Take it away, Keir.
A letter to my son. It feels like only yesterday that we brought you home. So nervous, but so excited for the journey ahead. Today, almost unbelievably, you're already 17. You're taller than I am. And you've grown into a confident, kind, wonderful young man. I remember when we watched Adolescence together. And as a dad, it was tough to see at times. If I had one message for you, and for every other child growing up, it would be this. Don't listen to that voice.
Right, he's actually 17, as I said. I thought it was 18, but there he is, Emma. How weird is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that he said that watching Adolescence was tough with his son. I mean, I felt exactly the same when I tried watching it because it was just outlandishly inaccurate. I'm imagining that he's saying that for a different reason, though, nonetheless. But I think that an open letter should at least have some content that makes you feel that you can relate to it. I don't know who his PR is, but they're doing a really awful job of trying to make him seem relatable because he doesn't seem relatable at all. It was quite shallow what he says in that particular context about his child's life, and I think that fundamentally it's about, again, just trying to make us feel like he's more human, but he just comes across as inauthentic.
Yeah, and you're right. I think it's all about Keir trying to show us what a marvellous human being is, what a great dad he is, what a fabulous relationship he has with his son. We go to Arsenal together. You're taller than me now. It only seems like yesterday I brought you home when you were a baby. They're trying to humanise this guy who comes across like a robot, but it's actually, I think, had the opposite effect. It makes him seem like an A-grade weirdo. As I said in my monologue earlier, you know, speaking as an outsider, Keir, what do you think of the human race? I mean, he is strange, isn't he?
Well, one of the things that you said that I think made sense is you said, oh, it's his 18th birthday. So what you were trying to put across was, well, it kind of makes sense that on his 18th birthday, he's making a big public statement because he's got this relationship with his child. And then you're like, no, he's 17, actually. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever that isn't actually
you're right.
his birthday. So therefore you go, well, why didn't he do it on his 16th birthday? And so on and so forth. The reality is, this isn't about telling his son anything. This is about telling us something. And you know, one of the things that Keir Starmer does really effectively in his Prime Minister's role is telling us what to do, telling us how to think, telling us what views are allowed, telling us that we will have certain things that we might not want. He's very good at telling us exactly what we should be doing. And I guess, therefore, the reason he's written an open letter to us all is because he sees himself as our dad. Not the one, but the dad that pushes his opinions on us and doesn't accept that we have any rights of our own. That kind of dad. The ones that none of us liked. The ones that were around the 70s and 60s kind of dad. Yeah.
Yeah, 70s dad, you're right. But you know, he's in an unusual position, as all famous people are. So if you're a famous dad, a famous guy, and you got kids, it probably gives a new element to your parenting, obviously. I would suggest that Keir Starmer has abused that element there. And his poor kid, his 18-year-old son, must be excruciated today. He must be mortified by this. I mean, in terms of parenting by a guy who's well known to everybody, this isn't very good, is it?
I just think that when it comes down to those really personal connections, and don't get me wrong, I think there's something beautiful about sharing your feelings about your child. There's nothing wrong with that. We appreciate how much we adore our kids. But also, it's what is the content and context, because it doesn't really say very much. It's very surface value. And also, I don't understand the meaning and rhetoric behind it, and I think that's the biggest question. What I want to hear if somebody's going to do that is this emotional sweep where I feel connected, and I feel a level of empathy and a level of understanding, and I'm understanding why that person's reaching to have that connection. But actually what he manages to say is, I had this fantastic relationship, you know, with my son that I really would have wished to have had with my own father. By the way, my father was amazing. He was incredible with my mother. So he's kind of saying nothing negative about his own dad, apart from they didn't have a relationship. And it made me think, well, maybe that was more on you. Maybe you were the one, because obviously your dad was incredibly compassionate towards your mother. So there was certainly some kind of real connection and compassion within his father. And if there was one thing I'd say about Keir Starmer, it would be, you don't make me feel like I know you or I can like you because I don't see you. And I think that's what I took from it. If I was putting my therapeutic hat on and I was sitting in family therapy and I was listening to that, I would say, how can you think you're saying so much when actually you're saying so little? And that is actually, I think, the statement I would make when I actually internalised what I've just said. That's actually how I feel he comes across every single day when he says whatever he's saying. It's like, you think you're being so incredibly empowering regarding your position and your speeches and what you think's coming across. And we're sitting there going, we don't trust you, we don't hear you, we don't really see the gravity that you see. And I guess that comes down to the fact that he used to be in the legal profession. We all know that the legal profession has a particular mindset, and very often some of those individuals go into it because they believe that they know better than everybody else, and they don't. And like I said, the lack of empathy that he shows, even when he's trying to be really deep, really visceral, cerebral, emotional, just doesn't come across.
Well, a couple of things there. I mean, first of all, you know, he's made so much play about my dad, my father was a tool maker. You know, he doesn't like to talk about it, but, you know, he says it every other sentence. My dad was a tool maker, well, working class and all that. My favourite story of poverty from his past was, we were so poor that sometimes the phone got cut off. Well, let me tell you, when I was a kid, my family couldn't afford phones. So you want poverty, I'll give you poverty. So he doesn't quite get that working class thing. But, you know, suddenly we learn, oh, this toolmaker dad you're so fond of telling us about, you didn't have a very good relationship with him. So that introduces something new. And then you're right. What he's trying to show us there is, look at me. I am the master of empathy. You know, we all, you know, look how much I love my son. Aren't I one? Taking his parenting, his fatherhood, and turning it into a political ploy. That's what that's about, isn't it?
It's really weird that he would do that, because it is for political gain. It is for trying to get people to see him as more relatable, and that means he's using his son in that way as a prop. Like I said, I'm all for sharing your feelings about relationships. That's wonderful, but it just doesn't feel anything less than surface. And like I said, if my dad or my mum had come out and said things about me, I'd want to know about those kind of tear-jerking moments of meaning that had profound impact. That's what I want to hear. And all I hear is, this is the PR scenario. We've decided this is a good idea. Lord only knows who's being paid to come up with these harebrained schemes. I think probably if you want to take something from the working classes, employ somebody in your PR team from the working classes. I'm not talking about the working classes that Labour pushes. I'm talking about the kids from the estates who grew up and, in spite of their problems and in spite of their parenting at times, in spite of their economic situation, kids I used to work with have got the grit and the mettle and the understanding of people around them. Get one of those in, because you know what? That would make a difference, because people would be able to hear the authenticity. We don't see that right now.
Well said, Emma. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much, as always. Emma Kenny there, TV psychologist. As I keep thinking, you know, I don't know Keir Starmer's kid, of course. Don't know his 17-year-old son, but I would have thought that the average 17-year-old lad would be mortified by that. When I was 17, if my dad had done something like that, I'd have killed him. Seriously, honestly, terrible, really weird as well. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. When we come back, Ed Miliband, Crazy Ed, the Nut Zero secretary's at it again. He's got a clean air system, a clean air plan that's going to put even more money onto our energy bills. They're going to go up by another 180 quid. Is he kidding? Is he serious? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Ed Miliband, if we must. Crazy Ed, the Nut Zero secretary, the most dangerous man in Britain. He's going to crash our economy. He's going to ruin this country with his madness, with his green claptrap madness. Now, already, him telling us, remember, he said, oh, my clean air energy plan will reduce your energy bills by £300. They've gone up by about £300. And now his new plan, experts have predicted, will mean higher bills into the 2030s and at least £150 more going on to our energy bills. So they've already gone up since Ed came in by about 300 quid. Now they're going to go up another £150. We already right now have the highest, get this folks, the highest energy bills in the entire world, 5 times higher than in America, because we won't frack, we won't use fossil fuels, and it's insane. It's absolutely insane, and he just keeps building more and more windmills, putting more and more solar panels in, destroying farmland, destroying environments, and when it's not sunny and not windy, we have to go back to power stations. It's just ridiculous. Let's talk to campaign director at Net Zero Watch, Maurice Cousins. Maurice, welcome to the show. Before we start, let's have a little look at this lunatic in action, his latest video, which went viral. I don't know if you saw this, but it beggars belief. Take it away, Ed.
Small modular reactors are a new nuclear technology that can create good jobs across Britain. We're building the first fleet of SMRs in North Wales, creating 3,000 jobs. Clean, homegrown power for energy security, jobs, and to tackle the climate crisis.
Ed, this is an SMR video, not an ASMR video.
There were some men with white coats on just behind him who fortunately took him away and put him into the padded cell that he ought to be living in. But seriously, Maurice, I mean, this has got to stop. I mean, this nonsense. Don't forget this guy came into power, or rather Labour came into power with our Nut Zero secretary telling us, yes, my green energy plan will reduce your energy bills by £300 a year. They've gone up by 300, now they're going to go up more. When is this madness going to stop?
Hi, Kevin. Unfortunately, it isn't going to stop. So long as he continues pushing this agenda forward, your bills are only going in one direction, and that is up, I'm afraid, and it's going to keep going like that until at least the 2040s and beyond. And, you know, the reason for that, unfortunately, Kevin, is that these costs are going up is because renewables, essentially, if you think about this from a physics perspective, they are very, very, very low density. Now, listen, I know that this is quite technical, but it's important for people to understand this, which is that they are a low density source of energy production, which means that you need a lot more of them in order to produce the same amount of power that you could get from denser sources of generation like gas or coal or nuclear. And they're also very remote from where the demand is. Now, the end result of all of that means that you need an awful lot of infrastructure in order to be able to meet the demand within your economy, and that means lots and lots of costs, which can only go on one place, which is on your bill. And the other area of where there are lots of costs is that you need lots of backup, because this technology is not very reliable. So you need to have stuff in reserve in order to be able to meet demand when the wind and the sun not blowing, and when even the wind and the sun are blowing, because often it can be generating far more energy than we actually need. You then therefore have to then pay those generators to turn off. They're called curtailment costs, and those costs also have to then go on your bill. It is madness, utter madness.
It certainly is, and an analysis of costs that make up the average home's electricity bill show that by the end of the decade, consumers will be paying £264 more a year in green levies to decarbonise the grid than they do at the moment. So, you know, we forget that actually in our energy bills is all the money that we have to pay towards Ed's crazy plans. And, you know, the madness of it generally, you know, as Donald Trump said, for God's sake, think about us, the people of this country. Drill, baby, drill. Frack. We have enormous reserves of shale gas, particularly under Lincolnshire. Some of the biggest shale gas reserves in Europe. We're not allowed to drill for them because they'll cause earthquakes. No, they won't. Drax Power Station, the biggest power station in Britain, used to be a gas-powered used to be fueled from a coal power station, coal mine 30 miles away. Very cheap operation. OK, fossil fuels, we don't like that and all that kind of stuff. Now we ship in wood pellets from North America, all the way from Canada and North America. Great big sort of polluting tankers take them all the way across the Atlantic and then all the way up to Yorkshire, and then we pour all these wood pellets into the power station, and then the power station spews out loads and loads of pollution, caused by these wood pellets. The insanity of all of this is madness, not forgetting, Maurice, that the solar panels and the windmills that Ed is saturating this country with are made in China by a country that spews out 28% of the world's pollution and has 1,100 coal-fueled power stations and is building 300 more. In other words, we buy in windmills that are made with fossil fuels. It's madness. It's insanity.
No, it is madness. And what you've really hit the nail on the head there. What you've pointed out really are what Ed Miliband and others have said. Misled the public is the way I'd want to say it. I don't want to say that they've been lying, but they've certainly misled the public. And what they haven't done is told people the trade-offs of what they're doing. They've only ever tried to tell them about some of the supposed benefits that we're likely to see. And as I've just previously sort of mentioned to you, those benefits are overdone anyway. But the myth that we have been trying to tell people is that that we can get ourselves off these dreaded fossil fuels, and what we're going to end up doing is replacing it with a cleaner system, and it's going to be more secure and it'll be cheaper. And each one of those promises is false. I mean, it is false. As you've just rightly pointed out, we are substituting domestic sources of energy for foreign imported versions, whether it's wood pellets from North America or LNG from America or Qatar, whether it's dirty manufacture, green tech from China that uses coal to manufacture this green tech that we're bringing over here. It makes no sense whatsoever. But the mission must go on. We have to do this. It's in law till 2050, and unless the Tories or Reform get in, I'm afraid it's going to be more misery, more job losses, higher bills, and lots of families struggling to meet ends meet. It's not good.
To add to this circle of derangement, we mustn't frack. I remember, this was the Tories, wasn't it? The fracking plant up near Lancashire, near Blackpool, they actually poured concrete into it so it can never be used. And the reason that was closed down was because, of course, it was going to cause massive earthquakes along the Blackpool Prom. No, it wasn't. What a ridiculous thing to decide. Now, Maurice, though, we buy in a lot of energy, a lot of gas from America. What kind of gas is that? It's shale gas that they frack. So we don't frack, we polish our halos and go, oh, look at us signalling our virtue, we're saving the environment. Oh, we'll buy that dirty gas from America. It's insane.
It's criminal. If you go back to the 1960s and the 1970s, the governments back in that day, when they were making key decisions around North Sea, would have cut their left arm off in order to be able to get the resources that we've got, Labour and Tory. And we forget this. It was a Labour government. Tony Benn was responsible for why we've got North Sea. Back then they actually put the national interest first. But nowadays they're putting the global interest or the interests of green investors ahead of the national interest. It's nuts, completely nuts.
It certainly is, and still we search for a definition of what the hell GB Energy is. I remember them saying it'll provide thousands of jobs. They've just announced that it could have, there might be 300 jobs at the organisation's Aberdeen HQ by 2030. As you quite rightly allude to there, Maurice, meanwhile, he's shut down all prospecting all activity in North Sea oil and gas. That could cost, I'm told, like 200,000 jobs. So essentially, he's getting rid of 200,000 jobs to replace them with 300 jobs in Aberdeen for a company, GB Energy, that nobody knows what the hell it's supposed to be.
Kevin, it's very, very depressing. I was at a conference all day yesterday where we had presentations from people that understand the manufacturing sector. 1998, we were the fourth largest manufacturer in the world. We were the fourth largest. And, we'd gone through a lot of tough times after the sort of the period of the 1980s, where there was a huge amount of restructuring that finally got British manufacturing back onto its feet and was more competitive again. And, since then, we have seen a hemorrhaging of our manufacturing sector. We've seen jobs that have been exported to China, and the main driver of that, Kevin, it's not globalization. The central driver of that are our high energy bills. You rightly pointed out at the beginning of this segment that we have the highest industrial electricity prices in the developed world. That is a national scandal, and it shames every single politician that has been involved in energy policy over the last 2 decades. In 2005, we were paying about 15p per kilowatt hour. Today, it's nearly double that. And we are, as you rightly pointed out, we pay, I think, 4 times what it is in the United States, double what it is in Europe. And it shames, as I say, it shames every single politician that has been involved with energy policy, Labour and Conservative, over the last 2 decades. And you think of all those families out there where they've had, members of their family that have lost their jobs, that have been working in good, solid, productive industries that earn good wages, and they're now facing, a miserable Christmas coming up as they've been told that they are no longer going to have job security going forward. I feel very, very sorry for these families. And it should shame those people who say that they're doing this in the name of net zero.
I'm just seeing also, Maurice, that the COP30 venue is on fire. So there's another story for you. And I don't say this...
Must be an omen.
It's some sort of sign. I don't say this lightly. I've got to go now. Great to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. But I don't say this lightly, but I do genuinely worry about Ed Miliband's frame of mind. I don't think he's fit to be a minister. Maurice Cousins from the Net Zero Watch campaign director there, thank you very much. Next up, we're going to talk about the cinema, the right-on groovy London cinema that's cancelled a film on free speech because it doesn't align with its values. So what are its values then? Against freedom of speech, doesn't like freedom of expression? What is that all about? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
In terms of your question around taxes, there are no additional tax rises needed beyond the ones that I've set out.
Don't need to increase taxes. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
I will not increase your national insurance. I will not increase your VAT, and I will not increase your income tax. We don't need to come back for more. We've done that now. We've wiped the slate clean. The economic circumstances have declined, deteriorated since a year ago. We are having to look at taxes and spending.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Breaking news, as I was just saying to Maurice Cousins of the Net Zero Watch organisation, a huge fire has erupted at a pavilion inside the venue of the COP30 convention, plunging the environmentalist conference into chaos. Emergency crews have rushed to control the blaze as video from the event shows flames and smokes engulfing the interior of the venue. Other videos show panicked evacuations of delegates and security trying to control the situation. I've seen some of it. It's very dramatic. So something big going on there. We'll try and keep you updated with that. In the meantime, welcome to the show to External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. She's battled in here through our terrible tube system and she's made it at last. But listen, we need to talk about the free speech film that you were about to show at a cinema in East London, and they've cancelled you. The Rich Mix Cinema in Bethnal Green had agreed to screen Think Before You Post on November the 25th, but they've just revoked the booking, saying that it's against their values. This is a film about free speech. So free speech is against the values of Rich Mix Cinema, so it doesn't like freedom of speech.
No, you couldn't really make this up, Kev. Obviously, it's just the irony is off the charts. This is an excellent documentary made by Spiked Online. Tom Slater narrating the video, and it's actually featuring three of our really big cases at the Free Speech Union: Maxie Allen and Rosalind Levine, the parents who were arrested by 6 police officers.
Got 20 grand, didn't they, yesterday?
We've just won them back £20,000 with our help. We also have Jamie Michael. He was arrested, held on remand for 17 days, cleared by a jury in less than 17 minutes for a video he made on Facebook. It was completely innocuous. And also Alison Pearson, who was had the police visit her for a tweet that she deleted. So these are very important issues, and what's so hilarious about this institution is this place is meant to be a cultural arts venue. They've hosted a lot of
one of these groovy writers.
And one thing they have on their website that they say that diversity is part of everything we do, but clearly diversity of opinion does not fall within that category. It's quite ironic, really.
Yeah, let's have a look at what they actually say. This is what was written to Tom Slater, often on Talk, a big presenter's friend, often with Julia Hartley-Brewer. He was told by email from the Rich Mix Cinema. Rich Mix, I mean, get a new name, it's so hard to say. The Rich Mix Cinema in Bethnal Green. Since confirming your booking, it has come to light that the content and speakers featured do not align with our values and mission here at Rich Mix. Our founding objectives are to support marginalised communities, primary communities facing racial inequity. What's this got to do with it? Promote intercultural understanding, eliminate racial discrimination and foster equality of opportunity through arts and culture. So to go back to our founding objectives are to support marginalised communities. The speakers do not align with our values and mission. So their values are that they don't like freedom of speech.
Of course, and they also forget that it's freedom of speech, which all of those other rights which they talk about rest upon. Without freedom of speech, we couldn't argue for all of the rights that they are arguing for. I mean, it's just so bizarre. And of course, Tom Slater pointed out that the person who wrote this email signed off with their pronouns. Another massive core value that they have is inclusivity, clearly not inclusive of differing opinions. We all know now what inclusive actually means. It actually means excluding everyone that doesn't align with their values, which is exactly what they have done here. It's to a huge detriment of themselves. It was going to be such an amazing event. Alison Pearson and Jamie Michael being there in person for a Q&A. They've just put themselves out of a huge business opportunity. So this is a charity arts venue in Bethnal Green, not far from East London, and essentially what it's saying, so if you talk about that poor couple who had 6 coppers raid their house and they got arrested because they were part of a WhatsApp group that was a bit concerned about the teaching of their kids' school. They just said, not quite sure about the geography lessons, you know, the way parents do. School reports them, 6 coppers turn up at their house, they get arrested. Only yesterday they got £20,000 compensation. So the Rich Mix Cinema presumably supports the police in this action. Which again is quite ironic, because you imagine that these people probably talk a lot about police brutality, and obviously this isn't physical police brutality, but if we're going to talk about concerning shifts in politics, I think overreaching of the state and trying to police people's language, you know, if anything's a bit fascisty, I think it's probably that. And you'd imagine that these people are against authoritarian regimes, which is precisely what this whole documentary is raising the alarm about, is how authoritarian our police have been. And clearly this isn't an issue that these people want to deal with. And I'm sure if it was them on the receiving end, you know, in 10 years' time, when the shift happens, maybe inevitably, which it has done throughout history, there might be a time where they want to talk about their freedom of speech, and all of a sudden they won't be able to. You know, it works both ways. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and the irony is off the charts.
While you're speaking, we're just watching for the audience footage from the COP30 conference centre where there's been this huge fire. Yeah, I was going to say that. What they think that because people who speak out in favour of free speech, they align that with right-wing thinking. That's what it is. These kind of people, they tend to support kind of socialists don't like freedom of speech. Our Labour government don't like freedom of speech. They want it to be controlled. That's what's going on here, isn't it? You've got left-wing people who think those of us who say you should be able to say what you like, you shouldn't be arrested by the police for tweets, they think we're right-wing. That's what's going on here, isn't it?
I'd say if there are any staff members from Rich Mix Cinema listening to this, I think you'd be best advised to become a member of the Free Speech Union, because it sounds like quite a hostile environment. If you step out of line at the Rich Mix Cinema, then it seems like you might get into a bit of trouble. So if there's anyone listening who does work for this cinema, then you know where we are. Yeah, well said, Connie. Thanks for struggling in. That's Connie Short, External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union. Very good point. They shouldn't be cancelling a film on freedom of speech. It's just, as Connie said, completely ironical. Now, after the break, we're going to be talking to Olympic legend Sharon Davis about the latest madness on the trans front. That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the final hour of today's Drive Time with me, Kevin O'Sullivan. In half an hour or so, I'll be joined by the great Kinsey Schofield. Lots to talk about with Princess Meghan at the moment. She's given the most extraordinary interview to Harper's Bazaar magazine, which I might call bizarre. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk about something perhaps a little bit more important right away. The latest, what I'm going to say, madness on the trans front. And to discuss this is the great Olympic legend, medalist and author Sharon Davis. Welcome, Sharon.
Good evening, Kevin. How are you?
I'm very, very well. But I tell you what, I get almost more confused and a bit more angry every day.
You're not the only one.
Yeah. So the latest nonsense that we're hearing, I mean, I say nonsense, but it's important. You know, we know what the Supreme Court decided in April, that safe spaces for women were to be enshrined. Blokes aren't allowed in. Bridget Phillipson has received the the Equality and Human Rights Commission advice on this and has not moved, hasn't done anything about it. Meanwhile, councils, NHS trusts, businesses are all still allowing trans women, blokes in dresses, into women's safe spaces, saying that they are waiting for guidance. I don't see why they need guidance, but the madness that I'm talking about is there seems to be some suggestion that going forward, some trans women, I don't really like calling them trans women, by the way, as far as I'm concerned.
Trans-identifying males, which is exactly what they are.
Well, I prefer blokes in dresses, to be honest with you, but I'll take your nicer description. But this new thing is that some trans women may be allowed into women's safe spaces if they look good.
Well, that's not really what they're saying. You know, the silly thing about this is what the headline is grabbed by those people who want to cause problems. So the law, the Supreme Court ruling in April wasn't actually a changing of the law. All it did is clarify the law. It basically said what the Equality Act in 2010 did was to say that sex was biological sex. The problem was that Stonewall decided to impart Stonewall law, and that was allowed to go on for 10 years where the law was changed and misrepresented deliberately. And it absolutely was done in sport, and they threatened to sue sports, and sports buckled, and they went the route of least resistance, which was to throw their women's sportsmen under the bus. So obviously we had the Supreme Court ruling that told us that actually, do you know what, it is biological sex. Women should have privacy and dignity to their bathrooms, their changing rooms, their short and long lists, and their sports. And as you so rightly said, we've been waiting for the guidance. The guidance is just a simple way of explaining to businesses and sports, this is what you should be implementing. It's not actually the law. The law is in place. So any sport at the moment that's not protecting the female category, any leisure centre that's allowing, trans-identifying males to go into women's change rooms, they are all breaking the law. So you have the right to say, no, I'm not going to put up with this. Now, to turn around and say it's about what they look like, the point is that's our only way of being able to call somebody out. So it's basically, if a male was to walk into a woman's change room, the only way we have to call them out to say, excuse me, but you look like a man, you probably are a man, I'm calling you a man, please tell me that you're not a man, because otherwise you shouldn't be in here. Right. So it's nothing to do with, right, well, you don't look good enough so you can't come in. It's the only tool that we have to be able to call them out. Because believe it or not, things like driving licenses and even passports are self-identification. You don't even need a GRC for those, right? Gender recognition certificate. You can literally decide yourself, anyone.
You're joking. Passport.
No, I'm not.
Passport.
I'm not. Yeah, passports as well.
That's ridiculous.
So therefore, we have no way of saying to these people, show me this document, because those documents, I've got a lie on them. They've got, the wrong sex box is ticked. So the only thing we have is our eyes. That's the only thing we have left to say, you shouldn't be in here, please leave. So the answer to this is males, trans-identifying males, do not go into women's spaces that you shouldn't be in, because then we're not going to say to you, please leave. And that's the simple answer to all of this, isn't it, really? Just don't go in there, because it's, you're breaking the law.
Absolutely. Now, as I said earlier, the councils, NHS trusts, businesses, who are still allowing trans women into...
34 sports, Kevin. 34 sports still in the UK allow males to identify into women's sports.
Ridiculous.
Even with the IOC stuff last week, which was great, you know, to see that they're moving towards protecting the female category, hopefully bringing sex screening in across the whole board. We still have sports here in the UK. And what happens is that women self-exclude. So if, let's just say, you know, you've got a golf tournament going on, two clubs playing each other, a woman turns up and she's been put against a man, she just doesn't want to do it, so she self-excludes, so she stops going. You know, if a woman goes to a workout program and there's a man in the change rooms all the time and nobody's paying any attention or supporting them, they stop going. You know, young kids, if they're coming up against boys, if they're racing and competing against boys, they give up. So I don't understand it when only 5% of the sponsorship dollar goes to our young girls. 20 media pieces, 1 will be for women. 20 to 1, that's the ratio, right?
Just
so we have this tiny little piece of the cake, and then we're told we're not even allowed to have fair sport. And of course, it doesn't go both ways. Men are not losing their opportunities or their places on teams or their prize money. It's just women that are losing it, women and girls. And it's really not right. And it never has been right. And the general public have always been on side, you know, and felt that this was wrong. Yeah. And yet here we still are.
And what do you make of this? So the guidance from on all of this after the Supreme Court's ruling from the Equality and Human Rights Commission was handed to ministers 3 months ago, but has so far not been published by the Minister for Women and Equalities, Bridget Phillipson. So what is that about?
Well, let me just read this.
Why is she dragging her heels, Sharon?
Yeah, God knows. Because unfortunately, she's frightened of her backbenchers. That's what the problem is. So this is what it says in the guidance. Rules in sport must be applied strictly on the basis of biological sex. Otherwise, it is indirect sex discrimination. That is in that guidance that's sitting in her in-tray and has been there for 11 weeks. And so Tracy, do you know Tracy Edwards of Maiden? Wonderful captain that was the first Whitbread, you know, lady.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yep. So Tracy Edwards and I have started the Women's Sports Union.
You've got the Women's Sports Union. Tell us about it. I've got a release on it.
We have now set up our organisation, and our strapline is to support, protect and grow female participation. We'd love for it to be all about just supporting and growing female participation, but right now it's going to be about protecting. And we are going to come after these organisations. You know, we are going to come after the individual CEOs who aren't doing their jobs. We're going to explain to them that they have no public liability insurance because they're also breaking the law. And if they won't listen to us, explain to them nicely how they're not doing what they should be doing, then we will start suing them. So that's what we're going to do next.
The Women's Sports Union, everybody.
Please come and support us, donate, join us, help us, because we obviously need your money to be able to go after these people, but we want to be able to protect women and girls sport for all our young girls going forward. They deserve it.
And in all the work that you do, all the great work you do for this cause, this very important cause, I mean, women's sport is at stake here. You cannot have guys competing against women. It's ridiculous, and it will destroy women's sport.
It is destroying. It's destroying pathways, and, you know, people are just walking away. It's a real shame. Do you know, we used to lose girls from sport at 14 and 15. We're now losing them at 11.
Well, I'm getting the impression, Sharon, that you don't feel... I think that the government should be supporting you all the way here, but they're not, are they? Bridget Phillipson
they're cowardly. They are literally shaking. Bridget Phillipson is shaking in her boots. She has scared witless of her backbenchers, her LGBT activist backbenchers. And that's what this is all about. They don't like what the Supreme Court, you know, had clarified. Therefore, they don't like the guidance, because the guidance is just what the Supreme Court have clarified. And so they're making her hold it up. And then to turn around and say, well, this is to stop people suing. Actually, that's the opposite, because right now we're having to sue. That's the only thing that we have to do, is to be able to sue. So we're all waiting for this guidance so we can stop suing, because then the law will be put in place.
Why is it, Sharon, that politicians like Bridget Phillipson, their Labour backbenchers, Ed Davey, don't see the obvious common sense of your case? It's obvious. You can't have blokes competing against women, because the blokes are stronger, faster, you know, biologically, you know, physically superior. You know, I'm not saying they're mentally superior by any measure, probably the opposite, actually. But you know what I'm saying? Your case is obvious, and yet you have all these ostensibly, you know, Oxbridge-educated people, senior politicians, who refuse to listen to you. It's insanity.
They're just, honestly, are so intimidated. It's untrue. We know that, don't we? We know that from all sorts of policies, you know, whether it's about trying to, you know, reduce welfare or whatever it is. They cannot get these policies through because of their activist backbenchers. What I think is the biggest shame with all of this is we all want more people to do sport. You know, I want everyone to do sport. I absolutely don't want anyone that identifies as trans not to be included and to be involved in sport. You know, it's been my life. I love it. I want more people to do it. And we definitely need it for our mental health. So why haven't they been thinking outside of the box? Instead of just throwing women's sport under the bus, why aren't these people capable of working out how we can include everybody without sacrificing female athletes? And that I find so lazy and incompetent. And, you know, there are ways around dealing with this.
And are you encouraged, at least, the next Olympics are in America? And Donald Trump's getting pretty hard line about this. He's saying that if he discovers any Olympic athletes are on their way and they're trans and they are destined or consigned to compete in a sport against a biologically opposite sex, he won't give them a visa. I mean, you've got an ally in Donald Trump, haven't you?
Yeah, we do, don't we? I mean, and that's obviously putting a lot of pressure on the IOC. You know, they're very aware of the fact that the games are in Los Angeles and they've got to be able to work with the American government. The only thing that worries me at the moment is DSD athletes. Now, DSD athletes, you know, it's a slightly different situation, but it's still at the same end result. It's just difference of sexual development. So Caster Semenya, for example,
the halfway people.
Well, they're not. So that's the confusion.
All right, okay.
There is no halfway.
I'm being ignorant again,
Let me explain this to you. Someone like Caster Semenya is fully male. Right. Their DSD can only happen to someone who's biologically male.
Right.
So when Caster was born, unfortunately, Caster had very small genitalia, was picked up, and they went, oh, it must be a little girl, and off they went. They went through full male puberty. They have male levels of testosterone. They are a male. They produce sperm. They are a male. All right.
Right.
And that is the DSD that we see. And athletics had 135 since 2000 when they removed the sex screening, just in track and field alone, which is one of the biggest reasons why track and field have brought sex screening in. So there will be some sports, regardless, which will have sex screening, but we're hoping it will be across every sport. And what's happening?
Tell me, Sharon. They have banned men from competing in boxing, women's boxing, haven't they?
Gosh, after last summer.
What did we have in the last Olympics? It was like kind of a new event. It was going for the gold medal in domestic violence. It was really harrowing to watch. They're not going to let that happen again, are they?
No, I think that did actually wake an awful lot of people up. You know, I think over the last 10 years, we've been waiting for a woman to literally be paralysed or killed, you know, in a contact sport like rugby or boxing. The thing that was ridiculous last year with Paris is that actually the World Boxing Association already brought sex screening in. So Khalifa was already banned. They weren't allowed to take part in the 2023 World Championships. But because they'd fallen out with the IOC decided to run boxing themselves. And their criteria was if you have an F on your passport. That was it, right? So that was how we got to this ludicrous state of affairs. They have now, the new Boxing Association have brought sex screening in. So that will not happen going forward. But the fact that it was allowed to happen and those women were put at that much risk, you know, last year in Paris, I think was a very big wake-up call for the IOC. And it did wake an awful lot of people up to how dangerous and how stupid this situation was.
Yeah, it was harrowing to watch. I'm glad they're putting a stop to that. But they need to put a stop to all sports allowing men to compete against women. And I know that you won't stop until that happens. And here's to you for that, Sharon. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much. The great Sharon Davis there. Let me know what you think about all that. 0344 499 1000. You know, it's just madness. Just stop it. Biological males can't compete against biological females. It's not rocket science. It's actually science. It's biology. Stop it. It's madness. We're just watching still very dramatic footage from COP30 over in Brazil. And the whole place is going up in flames. Scenes of great panic inside. Watch this. Have a look. Look at that. People running, huge panic, massive flames inside. It's inside the pavilion, as we understand. It's a breaking news story, so we don't know if anybody's been injured or how it started or anything like that. But COP30 is descending into panic-stricken chaos. Look at that. Look at that. So we'll try and keep you updated with whatever the hell is going on there. But a serious fire inside the main pavilion. Inside the main pavilion. Yes, we'll update you with that as we go forward. But in the meantime, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Ken in South Devon. Hello, Ken.
Hello, mate. Yeah, what I'd like to say is with this sports,
yeah,
why on earth don't they have 3 categories? Men, women, and transvestites.
No, they're not transvestites.
They have their own section.
No, you don't call it trans. They're trans people, trans women and trans men.
No, sorry.
They're not transvestites necessarily.
I'm 67. They're transvestites.
No, they're not. I mean, okay, all right. Well, it's just. The point is though, Ken.
I got a son who's trans.
No, look,
right.
Ken. The point is there aren't really. You could do that, but the trans sports section would be extremely small, wouldn't it?
Well, how many?
Well, there's not that many trans people. Yeah.
How many trans people has won gold medals?
Well, a fair few. Boxing, they always win at boxing. I'm not sure what the numbers are.
Well, will the trans win at boxing?
Well, I think they banned them now. But the last Olympics, we saw.
Well, about their own section.
Well, yeah, okay, but I mean, you think that should be within the Olympics?
Why not?
Or could you have the trans games? I mean, I don't think it's. I mean,
no, within.
But then you'd have to have the trans women games, and the trans men games. You see what I mean?
And what's wrong with that?
Well, it's okay, I suppose. I just don't think there will be. I don't think the numbers would be high enough to sort of. Justify a huge sort of international event, but it's a thought. I certainly, I think I'm on the same page as you in terms of, no biological male should be allowed to compete against a biological female. Do you see what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
exactly. So let them have their own section, and no biological woman should be able to compete
against a biological man. Yeah, no. I mean, it does sort of make sense. So yeah, I mean, sure. I'm not against the idea. It's a very sensible idea, Ken. Ken, thanks for a good call. Thank you very much, Ken in South Devon. There. Think it's a good idea? Let me know. 03444991000. In a little while, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be going over to Los Angeles to talk live to Kinsey Schofield, Meghan Markle. Man, she's been on manoeuvres. Lots to talk about with Meghan, a little bit to talk about with Harry, and maybe we'll have a talk about the latest news updates involving Andrew formerly known as Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as he is now, and his erstwhile wife Fergie. Dreadful couple. We'll talk about them as well. So that in about 10 minutes. But after this break, we're going to find out what is in the pages and on the front page of tomorrow's favourite newspaper, The Sun. That's next. Stay tuned.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, it's time to find out what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow. And with me is the night news editor of The Sun, John Lucas. Welcome, John. Right, first off, you've got the COVID inquiry, big spread. What's The Sun's take on that?
Yeah, right. Well, look, I mean, it's almost becoming a bit of a cliche now to say I can't believe that all really happened.
Yeah.
Lockdowns for months on end, the crazy rules about. Do you remember all the different levels?
Oh man, you know,
not seeing family and friends for months and months at a time. You know,
remember the rule of six? That was my favourite.
Yeah, all these kinds of crazy rules, and we've had the big COVID inquiry and
tier 2, tier 1, all
tears,
that
yeah,
stuff.
It all end in tears. I think we did that headline.
Yeah, end in tears. Yeah,
many times.
They were completely confusing. But what they're saying now, this inquiry, which in itself, in my view, is a scandal story. We're spending something like £180,000 a day on this rambling, trundling COVID inquiry that refuses to look into whether or not we should have had lockdowns at all, which is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it from the point of view, obviously the government's taken the former government and the officials and politicians have taken a big battering in this report, saying they were overseeing a system, a very chaotic,
toxic and chaotic.
Yeah, and I just think I remember being in the Sun newsroom, and when you're in a newsroom, as you know, you're in this great position to see trends and you can see things happening way before they do. And we were talking about this. When everybody was getting sick in Wuhan, thousands of people were getting ill.
Yeah.
And we were watching those flights come in every day.
Yeah,
and we were saying, this is insane. Why aren't these being stopped? Because you've got having hundreds of people a day coming from this epicentre.
I forgot about that. You're right. And other places were terrible.
Other places, well, Italy became very bad. They had the first.
They're flying in from there. You're right.
They're coming from Italy, and we were saying, well, you know, this is getting worse and worse, and the government didn't really get a grip on it at the start. You've got to have. There's a certain amount of sympathy because it's never happened before.
Yeah, exactly.
No government was able to deal with this perfectly. No government would have been able to deal with it perfectly, but you know, they've heard a lot of evidence. It does sound, you know, we all lived through it. There was a certain amount of chaos and confusion, but you know, thankfully, hopefully, this will never ever happen again.
Yeah, and let's not lock down again either.
Yeah.
Right, number 2 on your list, news list, is fight them on the beaches. Explain.
Yeah, so remember these chaps who started the Raise the Colour campaign? So for a little while in the summer we had flags going up everywhere, slightly controversial in some cases, caused arguments, but you know, I think they're patriotic guys at the heart of it. But they have been going over and filming themselves in gravelines, grave lines, as many people might say it.
Is it graveline? Is that how they say it?
Yeah, I'm not going to try the French accent.
Graveline.
Definitely not going to try that.
Yeah.
And they've been taking vigilante action. We saw some videos last week of them physically trying to prevent migrants boarding dinghies. And they've been over there. I mean, look, you shouldn't be taking the law into their own hands, but something they've been doing this week is finding motorboat engines which the smuggler gangs actually bury on the beaches and destroying them.
Yeah.
And, you know, whatever you might think about this sort of vigilantism, that's what
the French police should be
supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And if a bunch of blokes from Birmingham can just get on a ferry, go over there and do it, we're paying them. The figure is 480 million quid, is what we're paying the French to try and prevent these crossings. And we've got a bunch of blokes from Brum who've gone over and dug them up and smashed them up, and it just raises more questions about what the French police are going to do. Luckily, we're at that time of the year where it's very hard to cross. We're not seeing that many crossings at the moment because the weather's so bad. But
you're so right, John. I mean, you know, we mustn't approve of vigilantism and this kind of taking the law into their own hands. But these guys from Raising the Colours, they go over to Gravelines, the main beach from which all these thousands of migrants come across the channel, and they do, like, almost immediately what we keep being told the French can't do. They actually take steps that will stop these boats. Why aren't the French police digging up these engines and destroying them? So whilst we officially have to not approve of what the Raising the Colour guys are doing, you know, it does raise other questions, doesn't it? Let's move on. Let's not banned Andy. This is about Andy Carroll. What's happened?
Andy Carroll, yeah. Normally it's the other Andy we're talking about.
Yeah. This isn't Prince.
Andy Carroll. Yeah. He's a very nice chap, but not the. I don't think he'd take too much offence. Maybe not the brightest chap.
Yeah.
He escaped the driving ban today. He was up at in court at Chelmsford Magistrates Court in Essex. So he'd been caught using his mobile phone behind the wheel of his very expensive Range Rover. This was back on July 20th. What's weird about it is the reason he was using his phone is he was driving past the protests at the Bell Hotel in Epping because he now plays for Dagenham and Redbridge, possibly one of the most policed areas in the country at the time. And he got his mobile phone out and was driving past and filming everything that's going on. The coppers have obviously seen it, pulled him over, and he's got done.
And now they've shown him the red card.
Yeah, he got a little bit of a fine. He got a £660 fine and court costs. He's now got 16 points on his licence.
16?
He doesn't get a ban because he does have, and I can't talk about the detail of it, but he's got a reason for exceptional hardship, so he needs his car.
Okay.
But he was warned by magistrates, you are treading on very, very
I was going to say, I'd like to know what those exceptional details are. 16 damn points, but a typical Andy Carroll story.
Yeah, classic.
One last story, Life on Moss. What's that about?
Life on Moss, yeah, so it's a bit of a weird science story. Moss can survive up to, or has survived up to 9 months in outer space. So they took a sample of moss up into space to the International Space Station, and they basically slapped it on the side, and you'd think in the vacuum of space nothing can survive. Moss can survive. Okay, very boring science story, but what it means is they think that if you can transport enough moss to somewhere like Mars or the moon even, if you've seen Total Recall, where they it's called terraforming the planet. This moss might be able to help sustain an atmosphere, and from these very humble beginnings, humans could one day live on Mars thanks to moss.
In my days on the sun, that would have been mocked up with loads of pictures of green men and Martians. I hope you've done the same.
Well, it remains to be seen, but
I would hope so. I would hope so. John, fantastic stuff. Don't forget, that's all in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow morning, The Sun. Don't miss it. Thank you very much to John Lucas, Night News editor. Kinsey Schofield on the Royals next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to Los Angeles live to talk to our royal guru there, the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. It's Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
What a wild profile on Meghan Markle. She's the gift that keeps on giving this.
Do you know what, Kinsey? Do you know what? I said that to Henrietta, my wife, earlier. I was writing my little monologue for my show, What Just Happened. And she's going, oh, what are you writing about? I said, oh, she's given this interview to Harper's Bazaar magazine. I said exactly that. I said, my God, this woman is just the gift that keeps on giving. For journalists, she's just astonishing. Let's go through some of the things that she's said in this article. Here's what Harper's Bazaar magazine have put out about this. She very bravely poses on the front page without makeup, with her hair scraped back. I mean, that's quite good. So far, so good.
Yeah, but Kev...
Then it's downhill all the way, right?
That's the truth. But some people that love watching you and I have pointed out to me that this, again, is copying Pamela Anderson's playbook. You know, Pamela Anderson went the lifestyle route. Pamela Anderson had the lifestyle TV show, and almost frame by frame, Meghan's show copied it to the point where Pamela Anderson was asked on Bravo, what do you feel about Meghan Markle copying you? And so Pamela, as you know, has gone barefaced over the last few years, and it's gotten her a lot of positive attention. So some people have wanted me to say to you, do you think she's continuing to copy the Pamela Anderson playbook with the barefaced magazine cover?
Well, she doesn't do anything original, so I'm sure she is. I mean, she's seen that some of this no makeup, natural look is playing very well for some other famous women, and
she's desperate for authenticity, a word that's overused in this profile.
Yeah. Now, let's go into some of the details of this magazine interview. It was an interview for Harper's Bazaar conducted in two places by Harper's Bazaar journalist Caitlin Greenidge, who I'm going to pay some credit to. I mean, she quite stuck it to Meghan, really, by explaining how the interview unfolded. But let's go into we'll get into that in a second. But let's go into some of the things she said. She hoped, I'm paraphrasing it, she hoped that Archie and Lilibet, her kids, saw the bravery of her jam making. That it wasn't just, she hoped that they spotted that it wasn't just her boiling up fruit in the kitchen, that this was bravery. What on earth is she talking about?
Yeah. Well, she also, in the same article, completely rewrites history, where she talks about her grandmother from Tennessee, who she used to make preserves with. I mean, Kev, where was that story a year ago when she launched As Ever? When she sat on the stage at Time 100, you know, in the same room as Blake Lively, she blames Netflix when asked what inspired With Love Meghan. She goes, oh no, this was Netflix's idea. When she sits in the room with Fortune's most powerful women, she then says, oh, actually this happened during the plague. I started making jam and I decided this is a business idea. If this grandmother story was true, that as a child in Tennessee, I've never heard her talk about Tennessee before in her life. She was making preserves with her grandmother. Wow. That's the type of story you would have dropped at the beginning of this pursuit, this career path, so that we could understand that you did have some emotional connection to it, and it didn't look like you were trying to make a quick buck in the Martha Stewart space. But I just don't believe this story. I don't believe it at all.
Well, if this grandmother was or is around, at least it seems like it was one of her family members that she's still talking to. Most of them, of course, she doesn't talk to.
I don't think this grandmother is still around.
But anyway, this is the quote about the jam. This is the kids. So the kids are watching allegedly boiling up fruit. I hope they see the value of being brave. I hope they see the value of being brave. They saw it when the jam was just a pot on the stove bubbling. She doesn't.
And Meghan had the tongs upside down because she doesn't know how to properly do this. Yeah. Remember, like a few days ago, the tongs upside down trending?
Yeah.
Yes.
But this psychobabble, this California psychobabble that she specialises in, she is so far down that rabbit hole that she speaks a language that most of us don't even recognise. But let's move on to, once again, she's done this before in this interview. It's very revealing. She talks about how much Harry loves her. So no one in the world loves me more than him. So I know he's always got my back. She goes, I wonder how much more, you know. And on she goes, that his love for her is bold. It brings out the child in her. No one loves me more than this. He's always got my back. He really, really loves me, loves me, loves me. So loads of this. No mention of her loving him. To the extent you wonder, does she love him, or is he just a prop in her life story?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. She does the same thing during her Jamie Kern-Lima interview. That man loves me so much. I find it verging on narcissistic that she's always telling us how much Harry loves her. A natural impulse is to talk about how much you love your husband or how much he means to you. Yet she constantly flips that dynamic and tells us over and over how devoted he is to her. It is hard not to find that concerning on his behalf, and I gently remind our audience of Vanity Fair's February 2025 report that someone from Meghan's own team had been shopping around a post-divorce book. That claim went unchallenged by the notoriously litigious Sussexes, which only makes her repeated declarations about Harry's devotion even more puzzling.
Never talks about how much she or her love for him. It's always his love for her. He loves me so much. So on and so forth. Now, as you say...
Yeah, I mean, even with you, Kev, like when somebody tells me that they love you, like when I meet somebody and they watch us and they go, oh my God, I love Kevin O'Sullivan. I go, I love Kevin O'Sullivan. I don't go, Kevin O'Sullivan loves me so much.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Kinsey Schofield really loves me, you know. Exactly right. It's so weird. Let's talk about the actual interview. So it took place at 2 venues. Caitlin Greenidge, the writer, said, well, the first venue was the exclusive Beverly Hills Hotel, of course, in Beverly Hills.
The Polo Lounge.
Greenidge says that she realised that Meghan and her publicist had snared a very public table so that everybody could see them. Calculated choice, she calls it. And then, but this is my favourite story, they had something to eat, I presume, did the interview. The publicist sat between them. That's the way to get a good conversation going, isn't it? Anyway, they serve her a cup of coffee, cappuccino, and some of these places do that. And in the foam, they've sort of drawn a picture of Meghan. So it's from a photo, and there's her picture in the foam. She looks at this and she cries, "Oh, I recognise this picture. That's from our trip to South Africa."
Yeah, she interrupts her own interview to take a picture of her own face.
And then takes a picture of it.
Foam.
Yeah.
Like, say this was a great interview. Thanks so much. It's nice to meet you. Get up and leave, and have your publicist run back and take a picture of that coffee at the table. But to pause the interview so you could take a picture of yourself
in a coffee foam.
Yeah,
I mean,
in coffee foam at the Polo Lounge. It's giving pick me energy. It's giving act like you've been here before, Meghan Markle, new money.
Yeah, but this is my favourite bit. So then the rest of the interview, it's sort of Caitlin has to fly up to New York to meet Meghan in one of Meghan's friends' homes in New York. Obviously quite a grand place. So Caitlin writes, this is in... when I enter, this is this house. When I enter, the house manager announces, "Meghan, Duchess of Sussex." And then Caitlin goes on to say he does this even though we appear to be the only 2 other people in the house. So there's this interviewer, this journalist, waiting for this former game show glamour girl who used to be on Deal or No Deal and then went on to be a cable show actress to enter the room. And as she enters the room, somebody, this guy goes, "Meghan, Duchess of Sussex." And there's no one else there. I mean, talk about airs and graces.
Well, and this, don't forget, she told Oprah Winfrey in her 2021 sit down that she didn't care about titles. They didn't mean anything to her, which was clearly a lie, in my opinion. But this isn't the only time that she's announced by her title. When she rolls up in a golf cart to greet school children, young girls that are doing some sort of assignment, she's announced as the Duchess of Sussex. So clearly this is something that is important to her. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening so regularly. I get what you're saying. I do think that there are a couple of subtle swipes at Meghan throughout this piece. There's also, at the very end, she says Meghan is remarkably at ease with the surrealism of global celebrity. In fact, she seems to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a bit, I get that. It's also a bit sycophantic. But there are moments where a sort of little glint of reality comes through. Can we have a quick look at the promo for the Christmas, the Holiday with Love Meghan special? Get your thoughts on it. Let's play it.
I love the holiday season. It's about finding time to connect with the people we love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Embracing traditions.
I like this.
There we go. And making new ones.
We are now in the It's pretty jolly here. Let's go craft. Heyo. It's so pretty.
It's so easy and elegant.
It's better the next day and everything turns red.
It's so festive. Being a hostess or a host, it's about making people feel comfortable.
You can do things that make people feel a little bit more seen. See?
Let the festivities commence and embrace the special touches that bring you joy.
Should we see if this works?
One,
there we go.
2, 3.
Oh! There we go.
So, Kinsey, what's that little skip that she's doing between the Christmas trees? What's that all about?
I don't. She's just so desperate to be liked. Chill out. I mean, she says it's important that you make people comfortable. It's everything she does makes me feel the opposite of comfortable. I'm being 100% truthful when I tell you that my body is rejecting that. Yeah. I am not going to take advice from you about how to make people feel special when your father has been on his deathbed for years and you have yet to pick up the phone and call and say, how are you? How's your pulse today? You know, what's going on with you? What does your chart look like? She is the most selfish person in the world. Poor hostage Harry in the kitchen trying to act like he's enjoying himself, because if we can't get that Harry cameo, you know, the Harry cameo was crucial since we didn't get one in season 2.
Yeah.
And you know what? She had to have a member of her family in this. Otherwise, she would have the mainstream media laughing about what a joke it is that this woman who did not invite any members of her family to her wedding is talking about Christmas, or, you know, she could fit her whole party in a telephone booth. That's how many people she continues to talk about.
I'll tell you what, Kinsey, she missed a trick, though, with that, didn't we? We didn't see no pictures of the back of the kids' heads, but well, that was a sad omission, but there you are. Should we go to break and let's have a little talk, a little bit about Harry, but we need to talk about his Uncle Andrew, don't we? We'll do a little bit of that when we come back. Stay tuned, everyone.
big news coming this December. Our Talk TV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the Talk TV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with our excellent royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, over there on the west coast of America. And it's America we need to talk about here, Kinsey, because today was the deadline for the guy that we used to call Prince Andrew, and now called Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, to testify to Congress about what he knew, what he knows about Jeffrey Epstein, because of course he was very close to Epstein. The deadline has come and gone. Suhas Subramaniam, one of the 13 members of Congress who signed the letter calling for Andrew to come to them, said he has been hiding from us, and I think he will continue to try to hide from people doing meaningful investigations of this matter. Meanwhile, yesterday it emerged that he had consensual sex with one of Epstein's employees. He's avoiding helping this inquiry, finding out important things about how women were abused by Jeffrey Epstein. He's just a disgrace, isn't he? And I understand, I spoke to Andrew Lowney yesterday, the author of that book, The Excoriating Story of Fergie and Andrew. Entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. And he said that he believes that these Epstein files may contain very explosive information about Andrew, may even link him allegedly to underage sex. So he could be in big trouble here.
Well, he had until November 20th today to respond to the United States government and let them know if he intended to testify. I was never confident that he was going to voluntarily do this. Yeah. But what I will say is he's probably sitting back feeling a little bit of relief, knowing that so many other names are popping up and so many other details are popping up that are likely distracting from his major role in this scandal. I mean, the fact is, this is an American crime that really the only people that have suffered from it are Ghislaine Maxwell, but 2 British men. And I'm personally confident that Prince Andrew is, if he says he's innocent, but if Prince Andrew is guilty of what he's accused of, I imagine that there are other American men in power that likely participated in the same activities. And so he's sitting back waiting for some of those names to be released now that Trump has signed that, that document.
The release, yeah.
We expect, hundreds and hundreds of pages to be released around Jeffrey Epstein's life and contacts and associates. Yeah, I mean, does Congress trust Andrew to be honest in his testimony? I think if we've learned anything throughout the last few weeks, specifically, it's that we can't trust what he says.
Yeah, good point. And of course, both him and his awful ex-wife Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, the ex-Duchess of York, they both committed the same sin, if you like, by pretending that they'd ended their friendship, their relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein when they hadn't. And they were both found out. Subsequent emails and letters proved that they were lying when they said they'd cut Epstein off. Andrew in particular, of course, saying that he'd cut off all contact in that interview with Emily Maitlis, the Newsnight interview that basically ruined his life because he made such a mess of it. So both of them liars in that respect. But the Epstein files are massive. They're massive. People will go through them with a fine-tooth comb. And the word is that although it hasn't emerged yet, there may be some very bad news in it for Prince Andrew. In other words, that Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Roberts as she was then, was not the only Epstein girl that he allegedly abused.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's the only one that knows that right now, unless the victim is out there worried about this coming out. There have been people that have spoken off the record to some of these documentaries over the last few years that have also said, I've been with Prince Andrew, you know, under the Epstein umbrella. Virginia is not the only victim that has spoken out. She's just the only one that's put a face to a name, and she's been the most aggressive of them all. We don't know how old the young women were that claimed that they spent time with Andrew in some of these documentaries that I've seen over the years. One specifically was, I believe, produced for Peacock here in the States. So yeah, we just are going to have to wait and see. I did not appreciate the pictures of him. I don't think they were of him physically riding, but I think they were of him preparing to get on a horse at Windsor in the last few days.
He's doing it again, isn't he? We get off his bloody horses all the time. He's riding that damn horse.
Yeah, I think he needs to stay out of sight, out of mind, keep his head down. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's eager for him to move out of Windsor. And, you know, kind of, we're ready to clean the place up. He is a stain on the royal family.
Totally agree, Kinsey, but I think that stain may get worse. I think it may be the case that his nightmare is bad, but it's going to get even worse. Kinsey, fantastic to talk to you. I think I'm going to talk to you next week for Recollections May Vary. I look forward to that. That's the brilliant Kinsey Schofield on all the latest royal. Meghan, what the hell is she up to now? That interview, you should read it. It's breathtaking. It's just psychobabble that you can't understand. The bravery of jam making. Who else could say that but Meghan Markle? Unbelievable. In the studio, it is my excellent producer, or the presenter tonight of the Political Asylum. No doubt she's going to do a better job than I do, as always. It is Samara Gill. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm all right. What have you got lined up for my show?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been great taking over the good ship, but I think people do want you back.
No.
I think that's a prevalent opinion. But
we should do it together, maybe. That's an idea, isn't it? the Kevin Samara show. That Kevin Gill. I can't. We'll work something. Sullivan and Samara. I don't know. Something like that.
People just want you, Kev.
No.
Look, we've got. I'm trying. There's some interesting stuff going around. Obviously, the 500 migrants a day signing up for benefits. What the hell is that? I mean, this is like Britain turning into the world's food bank.
1.3 million foreign nationals now claiming universal credit. That's just a joke.
It's ridiculous. I mean, honestly, I think there are a lot of people in this country that do deserve benefits. I don't think foreigners should be coming here and taking them. That's my opinion there.
You know, Isabel Oakeshott was on earlier, and she pointed out the joke about this. They come here, they start getting universal credit, and then they send it back to their family. They send the money back to their families in their home country.
There's a lot of that going on.
Insane.
It's insane. And speaking of insane, Diana Rama, the book, the new book, is Andy Webb's book.
Yes.
Andy Webb's actually coming on to discuss it.
Yeah.
And this is that, you know, that Martin Bashir interview that everyone's seen, probably the most famous interview ever.
Now undermined and scandalised.
Well, yes, mired in scandal. Yeah. He's going to tell us all about it and how the BBC knew as early as 1996 about Martin Bashir and his proclivities. So it's just another scandal to go around with all the other scandals.